rehearsed.
Oh, so it's not his wedding.
No,
Oh.
just got married, not next week, the week after he was like.
All right, we'll forgive him then. Tell him he gets away with it.
People will use any excuse.
I know, really. My sister's getting married. I can't go to a village board meeting. Come on. Yeah, Joe's on his way.
Sounds like it's just starting.
How much time do you need?
Oh, no, I'm just gonna rinse my grapes because I'm eating dinner.
Racing back.
I came straight from work.
You're dirty.
Oh,
You're
no.
dirty, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's star.
I feed my grandkids dirt all the time.
You gotta eat a certain amount.
Yeah, you got it. It's good for you.
You're right.
Is that the,
Yes. What is the one? It's like-
yeah.
Oh, no.
Like Donna.
Oh, okay. Oh, I should do that. Okay. So. Oh, I see it there.
Yeah.
For those of you online, if there is anybody, we will be starting in about 2 minutes. See, I have to behave myself because we're on.
So we are on YouTube now.
I know, I'm being good. I'm trying to be good. I'm not very good at it. Welcome to our workshop meeting. We will be discussing first our projects in Memorial Park. And I'll turn it over to Andy and let you manage our time together.
Well, let me introduce our consultant for this project. Is Jim Moran here. He's from H2M Engineering. We're super happy with their skill set. They've been involved in the water department for a while. We've really been kind of clutch performers on a number of levels, so we appreciate that. Jim is working with a gentleman named Sean Peters, doing a lot of civil engineering. They have landscape architecture experts and other folks they draw in. I just want to summarize the projects really quickly, just from the top. We have 4 funded projects. That's why I recommend, let's get back here. She and I work together on the grant apps and on administration and so on. The 4 projects in Memorial Park are: number 1, a rehab of the Great Lawn to give us some nice grass out there and deal with some erosion issues. Number 2, a playground equipment replacement project focused on the tot lot for little kids. Number 3, a playground surface project to use some rubberized surfacing in there for safety and maintenance purposes. And number 3, a walkway project, which will get people from the driveway by the basketball court back to the bathrooms, to the playground and around the front towards a splash pad. So that people won't have to go over grass or mud or what have you in order to get over the splash pad. So those are the 4 projects that we're talking about. Where we're at right now is that the engineers have created designs and they're working on bid documents for those 4 different contracts. The plans will show all the projects on a series of maps, which Jim will lead us through. The projects are identified by letters A, B, C, and D. There's 4 of them. And the only thing I want to mention, if we have time, is we have another project we're seeking funding for, which is the waterfront path that would connect our pedestrian bridge over towards the viewing pier. That's not part of the scope that H2M is working on because it isn't funded yet. But you know, we got our CFA applications in a week or so ago, and we all have our fingers crossed that funding. So that's the summary. Yes.
Like the village administrator said, we're H2M architects and engineers. We're very happy to be part of this project. I'm raised in Rockland County and been to, I live in West Rockland, on friends in Nyack and been to this park many times, so. I think this is a great opportunity, and looking forward to seeing this project in fruition, so.
Do you want to sit here and manage the?
Yeah, if you just, we'll just, scan through, that's fine.
Okay.
This is what we call the existing conditions, which is essentially just a survey of the park, the way it is today. These are all grading lines here, these lines here, these are all spot elevations. And you picked up all the features, so, you take this, you can then put this into a CAD drawing, and you work from there to develop your plans from there.
Jim, I'm gonna ask you to speak a little bit louder because we got this air conditioner right behind us, so we
I
can't
can
hear you.
it, I don't feel it, I can hear it, yeah. So.
We have a hard time hearing. So.
Okay, so yeah, this is just basically the survey. This was used to develop the plans. This is the first set. The village did this before they engaged you engaged on survey. So, but yeah, it was fine. We worked with this. It's perfect. We go to the next one. This is what we call our demolition plans, set of demolition plans. So here we're calling out what is to be demolished or removed. We also have construction fence put here to protect the site. The construction site's also running here, connecting to existing fence. So that, pedestrians and people are not wandering down into the construction area, so they can be safe and we want to continue. You get a little bit of a flavor of the different contracts. So these little rectangles here, these are all what we call lay down areas, or the areas for each of the 4 contractors to use. So they can play nice in the sandbox, so they'll all have their own little area. So hopefully, we can keep them separated somewhat and they'll be able to work together. There's an opportunity when this is bid that you may get one contract that takes all 4 contracts or some combination. Could be 2, 3, or just 4 different contracts. So we won't know that till the bids come in. But, we gave everyone sufficient area to have their own space, to have their own, to work in their own contracts. And if you see everywhere we have something specified to be done, we have what contract is. So it's tied back to a set of contract B, for the different types of work that's going to happen.
We ask questions. So you're gonna do this concurrently?
Yes,
All 4 projects.
yeah, all 4 at the same time.
What was the question?
Can this job be done concurrently, all 4
Oh, okay.
contracts at the same time? And that's probably what we want to see, because you get your part.
Yeah, we want to keep it as compressed as
Right, you want
possible.
to press that time and get the work done. So, again, this is, we also have what we call erosion sediment control, so. All the gradings, attached basins, they'll have protection to prevent sediment and construction dust and debris from getting into, because that'll end up in dust, so you don't want that. So, we have some specifications on that too as well. Tracking pads, so they can remove the existing pavement here, and then they'll, drive in and out. They'll be on this stone tracking pads, so like it's not tracking dust and, mud and dirt anywhere else through the park. So we can go to the next one. All right, so this is, now you start to get to see what we're specifying to happen. So this is what we call, the conventional plan, or conceptual layout plan, we call it. These are all draft sets too, so we're about, let's say, 50 to 60% done here. The plans are actually almost complete, but we have to do the bid specs to go with it. So, we have standard specs, but we have to update them and tail them for the project. So that's like the next thing to go. And there's a couple of notes here that we're going to add, but so, what we're envisioning here is you're going to have a path here. Okay, this is your ADA compliant path. We're trying to spruce it up a little bit, so it's not just an asphalt path. So what we're expecting here is on either side of the path is a 1-foot border of paving stones. We have inspected the exact paver. That's something we really like. The village should give us a little input on. It's also something that you don't even have, we can just spec the type of paver. And say, or similar, and you could have the contractor supply you different ones that are available too after the bid, so. It's not like that has to be done right away, that's not a decision that has to be made. But it'll be a 1 foot border here and a 1 foot border there. Where it meets the, the Park Engines Road, it's gonna be a 2 foot border. And the idea behind this is, again, it's to spruce it up, so it doesn't look like just a plain old asphalt pad. And in mind, you're keeping with the, what you're going for your CFA grant for an improvement around this part here. What we had envisioned would happen, again, depending on the funding and whether you receive how much, is that you would have some sort of porous asphalt pavement here. And you can match, that porous asphalt pavement with this paver, bordered paver over here. So it kind of pulls the park together. So it's, I think the idea was, you didn't want someone walking over here and this looks totally different from over here. So it's, again, you wanted to try, even though it'll be done at different times, you want to try to pull it.
More uniform.
Yep. And this is something here that we're adding as an alternate item. So, basically what this means is if you have enough money, you can go ahead and do this, okay? This will be ADA compliant, so it will be a ramp down. It'll be an asphalt ramp down, again, with pavers on either side, because we know people cut through here. And that's a rather steep cut through, and quite frankly, I walked it, it was a little nervous walking it, so I wouldn't recommend anyone, doing that. So this would eliminate that, and the plantings here are really just to keep people from, reusing that cutting through. It's just kind of push them or direct them down to this new access way. So I think that's something, hopefully, the bids come in and it can be afforded in the project. I think it really would help a lot. So then this is now another 5 foot asphalt path, again with borders on either side. Which was in the demo plan, I didn't point out, but there's the existing gate here, somewhere around here that opens out. That'll be relocated to over here. So again, it kind of connects the park and the top and the playground, but I think it's also more secure for the, for the families that they're not walking right out here, they come out over here. So I think that's a nice feature. You're gonna have a playground area here, and this will match the same thing over here. There's 2 existing trees with a bench here, they're actually 2 really nice trees with a bench here. And the existing path kind of goes really close to them, and the tree roots have lifted up that path. So we relocated that path a little bit off, so hopefully we won't have that happen in the future. We'll eliminate that by offsetting this path a little bit over here, and then connect it into your spray area over here. One of the things that Andy had mentioned or shown us is that this bench, they're not fixed benches. So when we first drew this up, we were just going to leave the path here. Now we see that that this kind of gets the muddy area here if people are sitting here. So we can extend this path a little bit to the ball field backstop fence. So they'll have that asphalt, they won't be just sitting in the mud. And then if we come down here, this is another, and what we feel is a nice improvement. You have an access road that comes in through those stones, and then it basically cuts through the outfield of the ball field. And I don't know if people use that ball field, but I don't think that's a great idea to have a little asphalt path through the ball field. So we moved it out to over here, bordering the outskirts of the park, and I actually think this is going to draw more people to walk along this area now, because quite frankly, this is a nice area. It's a nice viewpoint here, and if you have this path walking along here, you're not going to go walking along there that much. But I think now, you're having a nice 12 foot wide path, which is also used as your access path, because you have to get access to the village workers have to get access to over here, and you have what are the features?
Well, it's a splash pad, the sewer pump for the bathrooms in the park, and a splash pad.
Right, so
There.
so you're gonna have your maintenance people driving through here. I think it's nice to have it as, this is kind of an attraction, just rather than asphalt or stone path going to the outfield, so. Again, that's another feature we felt is kind of an adding to the park that wasn't there before. I think this is something nice. Is anything else on this?
For this, I can keep going.
Yeah, we can keep going.
Well, actually, here's.
Unless you have questions.
Yeah, I mean, my only question, and I don't disagree necessarily that a walking, basically, if the. If the access path acts also as a walking path, it's. It's a little more. Beneficial. I just sort of look at it and say, boy, we're building a lot of asphalt on a lawn. To get trucks from that point to right over there, and is the only reason they're going over there for the water thing?
Yeah, basically the maintenance function on the
Wouldn't it be
On
easier just
splash
to
pad.
move the splash pad?
moving the splash pad.
Well, I'm saying moving the splash pad versus building a couple hundred yards of asphalt. And I'm only saying insofar as it's basically not having the trucks. You know, does everybody follow what I'm saying? Which is that
Yeah,
there's a lot of roadway there to bring them to basically just do one function, which is the splash pad.
Yeah, well, a couple of things.
Unless it really does function as a walkway.
I mean, one is that you really can't move the splash pad. It's connected to the sewer system coming out of the bathrooms in the park. And a line that goes up to Piermont Ave. So that's locked down. The master plan for the park actually conceptually proposed this design a while back to create a kind of a nicer walk. And so partly it's for the walking and kids with their scooters or whatever. And partly you need to have maintenance vehicles not cutting huge ruts through the grass in order to get back there.
No, I mean, I get that it saves the grass. I'm only remarking that it's a
Longer route than cutting straight
It's
across.
a
yeah.
very long, well, no, rather coming across, but I understand, because I know the territory well enough to know that there's really no other way to get to splash pads. This is the bottom of the hill.
Yeah.
There's no other way to really build any kind of road from Piermont Avenue to get there,
Which was, if you look at the original Quantrell drawings for the park, this was not a maintenance path, it was more of a walking path.
well, if it doubles as a walking path, it becomes more accessible, more acceptable. That's kind of the point. But I also thought the ultimate plan was to get rid of the asphalt. Okay, I mean, I thought the ultimate plan was to get rid of the asphalt that is on the eastern edge there. That basically goes between the grass and the water. Because we're not gonna really allow we haven't allowed parking there, and the plan was never to allow parking there again, it was only to allow parking. On the northern, and this drawing, right around there, we'll leave that for parking.
There for.
Leave a circle and leave some handicap parking. But then cut the parking off where the pathway is around there. And then allow that to green that over, which we wouldn't be able to green that over if that's now the. Access route to get to the splash pad. It just seems like it's a lot to give up for the splash pad. I mean, I love the splash pad. Kids love the splash pad. My kids loved it when they were of an age, but. I mean. Does anybody follow that? The idea of being able to walk to the water without having to walk on asphalt and the rocks, to have grass all the way to the waterfront.
I mean, I hear that, but I also don't know if I see that practical because of all the festivals and all the things that we do when the food trucks go, they kind of go over in that area. So I see it as a necessity.
Yeah, that's the way. I mean, one piece of information is important is that the funding that we went after was park facilities funding. And it wouldn't have been for a parking lot tear out. At least we wouldn't have enough money. We have another project which we're queuing up, which is that CFA application. Which, if successful, would green up the waterfront substantially and use the asphalt somewhat. That's still not a proposal for removal of the entire parking lot. Precisely for the reason that Trustee Johnjo says is that. The need for vehicles to be able to stage there for the various events that take place and for the maintenance that takes place inside the park. Some amount of asphalt is probably always going to be required for those purposes.
Joe, did you have?
Yeah, okay, a couple of things. I agree with Joe about the Eastern Shore, parking lot. I mean, that's what's worked out, but, I mean, you need a kind of a ring road around to get, materials, let's say to the gazebo or to the other place. So eventually, when the, asphalt is removed from the, Eastern Shore parking lot, then that new path should continue all the way up and connect to the, handicap parking that we need to use. So that actually is good. I mean, do you have plans? Or are you taking that into account?
Plans, there is a plan for the park.
Yeah, I know that, but this will tie in nicely to the existing plan.
Yeah. I thought you asked if we have plans. We do.
No, I know there's a plan, but I mean, this will actually, you want to reinvent the wheel because we have that access road all the way to the splash pad.
In other words, if it wasn't a parking lane where it was just a very long, it was basically a long access road
Yeah, but at least a shorter one and a narrow one.
and a beltway almost.
Exactly. That's number one. Number two is, the two paths that are a little bit, north of the splash pad. It seems like a, kind of redundant, that path and the one next to it, but there, can that be combined into one single path? I mean, why do you have two separate,
One goes from the
branches?
playground, right? One's
Yeah.
from the playground. and
One
one's
is
outside
for the playground.
One's inside the playground.
One
Yes,
is
it's
from the
inside.
playground.
Yeah,
the
see,
playground.
see the gate, this is that, it's not, you can't see the note, but that's the gate,
Okay,
so,
Oh, okay.
and so this is actually, there's the fence is in here.
okay, gotcha.
So it is to keep, you know, the children, you know, segregated or off of that other.
That's
I
good.
do- I do just have one quick question. There's no gate that's gonna be on that service road.
I'm sorry, no.
No, okay.
We didn't plan for it.
Okay.
There is another feature here that we haven't shown, and that's the grade one restoration. So, I don't want you to think we were just gonna leave.
Yeah.
The condition as it is, we weren't proposing that. Our landscape market, we had soil, tests taken. And the pH is very, very high on this soil. So it's either gonna need treatment to bring the pH down where it's can sustain grass. Or we would have to remove some of that soil, the top 6 inches and put sod down, which we feel is probably well, we know it's very expensive. And it's not easy to maintain. And I'm not really sure if that's the option that we're recommending. Another option, go remove 8 to 10 inches of soil, bring in new topsoil and then reseed. And the reason we're saying that is the treatment to bring this soil up, the landscape architect is saying it would take months of treatment and aeration and, you know, chemical treatment to bring that pH down. And you can't use the park. You can't walk on that area while that treatment's going on. So, which is, yeah, honestly, in the perfect world, I'd say do the treatment. But if you're not gonna be able to use the park, I don't know if that really serves the purpose of, you know, you wanna use the park especially.
Well, what would be the time frame? Like what beginning?
He would have to you know, he or anyone would have to come and do soil testing and see how the soil is reacting to the treatments. And so he said at least probably, he'd say 8 to 10 months
Oh, that's all.
of soil treatments. And we don't recommend that, but I'm just, you know,
And how long to remove all the topsoil and then put in new topsoil?
Well, again, you know, that will be part of the project. We we haven't put together the actual duration of that operation yet. So again, we're about 50% design or 60%. So we'll come back with that because right now the plan is there. This was an option. He just was able to get the soil samples last week.
Okay.
So he had made his recommendation. We you know, kind of put him under the gun to get us a recommendation right away.
Yeah, because we're gonna run out of time
Yeah,
quick.
exactly, right. So we were looking at the, you know, the calendar, say, hey, we need this right away. So, yeah, again, he put the recommendations, there's 3 recommendations. We're recommending the, you know, the 8 to 10 inch soil removal and then reseed. And we'll come back to you with a duration and a cost estimate.
Yeah, that's what we thought. Jim, did you have a question on?
Actually, yeah, but we will pass that. The question about this, reading the documents, it looks like you're using hydroseed, which I guess is a slurry. So one of the things that we were just concerned about is resiliency. Every once in a while, if we get a major storm, you may get water there.
Right.
So the two questions would be, how resilient is the seed that we're putting down? And then what kind of maintenance is gonna be required once that seed is down?
Yeah, so hydroseeding is it's a very good way of putting soil down and greening up an area quickly. That's the advantage. The advantage is you can get back your park and use it fast. If you're willing to wait for the natural germination of seed, then that is a more resilient seed that you're gonna get. So there's a trade-off. I'm not the landscape architect, I'm a professional engineer. That's, yeah, I have my own law, and that's about as much as I'm gonna go into what seed we would expect, because I don't do that. But I can find that information out if you want.
Yeah, because I mean, your concern is doing all this and then 2 years later, having it look sort of like what it looks like now. So both, what are we doing to make it resilient to these kinds of things? And then to find out what kind of maintenance the village would have to do. Or hire out to do to keep it looking the way that it looks.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you have to do aeration every couple of seasons, you have, during warm periods, you have to sprinkle it, you have to put water on it, and it's, this is stuff that you do on any one area, and, I just, my, before I came to this, I was Commissioner of Public Works for the city of New Rochelle. We have a lot of parks, I'll be honest, city doesn't take care of them the best, the ones the best they should, but you do what you can. And that's where, your ability to go out there and water it and reseed and aerate it is always dependent on funding and availability of staff. So I don't want to speak to that, but I just know my own experience. Those are things that you do. Don't get taken care of as a priority.
I'm not familiar with this, your picture, but you said that I do have a question. Is there irrigation going to be included with your plan?
No, it was not included. I don't know if the funding you have would be able to pay for it. I'm almost positive. It's getting crazy cheap. Bids are not coming in cheap anymore. All right, so I guess, that's really all we have on this plan set. Okay, so this is essentially what we call grading and utility sets. So, you see the grades here. So this is insurance, all ADA compliant. Again, here, this is less than 8% or 1 on 12 grade here. For the new alternate, we're calling it, you have a water fountain here, which we have a detail on the next page, but you can see that as well. The plumbing will come off the existing building, so it won't be attached to the building, be a standalone. There's a manhole that's buried here that's proposed to be excavated and exposed and raised. So it actually can serve its purpose. I don't know if there's anything else to really highlight on this plan set. I guess that's it. And so here, here's the detail sections. Just scroll down a little bit. I don't think any of this really would. Yeah, here's your water fountain. So, there's for pets, filled up water bottles, and then your regular, drinking water. So, that's all we have, for our plan so far.
Any questions from the board or thoughts?
I'm curious if did the person who did the inspection tell you why the grass is so acidic? Or the pH is so high?
No, I mean, there are what they usually would tell me, but like I said, we were kind of pushing him very hard.
Yeah.
Give us-
No worries.
So he was focusing on
Getting the
solutions, right?
No worries.
Rather than, trying to analyze what happened. So,
Okay.
because like I said, it only came in last week and, He works in our firm, but we were hounding him, twice a day.
No.
He turned this around quickly, so,
Yeah, quick, and we appreciate
Yeah.
the professionalism that you folks put into this as well. Anything else? Any questions from the public on this? Okay, so I think people are probably here also for a parking session. Thank you, Jim, very much.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, thank you.
I'm sure you'll be working with Jim Wilcox and the Parks Conservancy and the Parks Commission on some of the issues.
Mayor, can I just add one quick image here?
Sure.
We discussed earlier our latest grant application to the New York State for park development. And this is a schematic of that proposal, which is about $600,000. This is the pedestrian bridge here, right there where it comes over. Right now it dead ends and there's a step down from the concrete onto that gravel surface. And then you walk on gravel, which is not ADA compliant, all the way down here to where the viewing pier is. We were told one of the reasons why we didn't get funded last time was that the walkway did not include green infrastructure. And so this plan includes, for every catch basin that drains water out of this parking lot, there's about a half a dozen of them. It includes a vegetated swale around it, so water that's draining into the catch basin would go through a kind of pollution reducing vegetated area. It includes a kind of a vegetated area that is on the water side of the path to kind of beautify and at the same time treat the runoff from there. And this is a conceptual drawing for the purposes of a grant application, but it gives us some idea of how we might proceed with that waterfront path. If we have funding, we'll work on full designs. It will re-raise the question which has been raised here, which is important, which is the status and need for this asphalt area, the possibility of some kind of turnaround and other kinds of questions which would need to be considered as well. So I just wanted to show you that. That was a
And we have submitted that.
yeah, it's been submitted.
All right.
So
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
for parks stuff.
Okay, so we are going to move to the next part of our workshop, and that is on parking. I think the first thing we'll do is have a representative from the hospital here to talk about the parking garage and the impact that's had. That may be why we have a bunch of people here. We'll get some questions and get some feedback on that. And the second part, we will go into a parking authority meeting to deal with the issue of the parking in the Riverside. All right, so do you want to
Do we have, here he is. This is Steve Apicella. He's representing Nyack Hospital. He was gonna give us an update on the garage project and the kind of park situation. So we have that as an agenda item. We're also, you probably missed this already, the river space lot policy question. And also, Jen has done a financial review of the parking authority more generally, which we have information.
Yeah, I think let's have Steve just do this sort of as a workshop because they're probably here, people have questions, and then we'll start a formal meeting of the parking authority and go into the parking authority issues that we have. That work for everyone?
Yeah.
Okay, so Steve,
So I'm Steve Apicella. I'm the Director of Safety and Security at the hospital. I oversee the parking garage. So we opened the garage in mid-January. And we have 500 spots between the garage and surface spots, five story. So to date, we have 710 employees signed up to park in the garage. So those folks are, off the street, they're out of our other lots and they're in the parking garage. The people who work during the day have to pay. If they work Monday to Friday, 8 to 4, they pay $70 for the month, the employees. So we have 150 daytime employees signed up. We also have another lot up on 9W that holds 200 cars. And that spot is, that lot is full. So our employees can use that if they don't want to use the parking garage and pay. The folks who work 4 to 12 pay $20. The overnight is free for weekends.
is great. So, we're getting a lot of use out of the garage. Like I said, 710 folks signed up for the garage. We had a late, snow this winter, so we had more snow, maybe people would be off the street and in the garage, in addition. We're also, we're not charging our outpatient folks, like the people who are going to the cancer center, the MS center. They're all great. So we don't charge those people. The visitors who come in, the first 2 hours is $5, 2 to 4 hours is $7, and over 4 hours is $10. So we're probably about 200 cars a day are using the garage visitors. And then our outpatient folks, a lot of them are using the garage and we validate their parking. So they're great. As you know, we turned the ball field back. So thank you, to the village and Nyack School Board, you folks for letting us use that while we built the garage. There's green grass on the field now. So I think that went well. That's pretty much it for the garage. It's being used. We're making a couple of bucks off it. We still have valet parking for folks. We were a little behind on the elevator going for handicapped people because of supply chain issues. But that is up and running now too. So I think that's pretty much it on the garage.
I know I had a lot of people had questions, and brought them to us, so
Right.
we
Can I
gave,
just ask a quick question? I missed what you said on how much employees pay.
So if they work during the day, full time, they pay $70. If they work 4 to 12, full time, they pay $20. If they work overnights or weekends, that's free.
Okay.
We also, do a pretty good job of educating our employees on like our good neighbor policy. We don't want them, there's not much we could do about it, but we ask them, not to throw cigarette butts or litter, play the radio in front of your houses, turn around in your driveways. Use the remote start to start the car and let it run in front of your house for 20 minutes. Like,
Well, the thing, I worked at, full disclosure, I worked at Nyack for about 20 years.
okay,
That's really one time we have to do something. I think you have it, yes, backwards with the charges, because the streets are more full during the day. I've seen no improvement. I live a block, I live on 6th. I've seen no improvement in certain parts at all. I think the fact that you're charging the day more when I'd like to see the cars off the street makes no sense. It just doesn't. They're not gonna use it. I know several people that still work there that we say, I'm not gonna pay $70 a month.
historically, they didn't pay anything, so $70. Is there any-
I just think that is backwards. I think the time that you want cars off the street is during the day. That's my opinion.
Okay, I'll bring that back, to
And so, what I said, when Sean Conley,
okay, then.
My name is Doug Kaufman. I was here like 6 months ago with the concern that you have with the cars that's still on the street. I live on Front Street, just behind 6. And there's cars there every day. I walked through the ramp 5-6 months ago. In like 10 in the morning, so prime time of the day, it was about less than half full. I walked through today at 1:30. Less than half full, and I can tell you like 4 or 5. You have 700 people signed up.
Right.
If there's it holds 500, it's about 40%. Yeah, they had 1:30 this afternoon, so prime time.
That's correct. Each day, but 700 employees that are signed up a long time.
Sure, oh, sure, I get it.
Yeah.
But it would be nice to be able to see them be more fully utilized during the day. So there's less cars on the street in front of our homes. People are respectful. I don't even know the cause. It's just that they're always full right in front of their house. And that's, so hopefully there's a way to, whether it's low, changing the cost, making it free, doing something different. It'd be nice to see that fully utilized.
I'll bring that back, my boss is up. Yeah.
Is there gonna be more of a commitment in that? I mean, that, I don't know what.
Oh, it's, 6 months. And 50 months in, they said, well, this is where we're at, so, back in March, we had 300 people signed up, now we have 700 people signed up, you know,
It hasn't changed.
right, I mean, people are digging their feet in, people who've been there for a while, and they don't wanna pay, so. They're gonna continue to park on the street.
I understand, yeah, no, that's the obvious issue.
No, I get that, so I'll bring that back to him.
It was the gentleman in the back.
Yeah, I got it.
Still obviously a complex issue. And I maybe give you some education on it. I've never really heard of anybody like being charged and as an employee to park for their job. So I just would love to hear a little bit about what the rationing was there.
Well, in the city, everybody pays, as you know. So we modeled it after St. Luke's, Newburgh, because that's one of our,
It's in New York City, is that?
I said, New York City, everybody pays.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
No, community.
No, I got,
You
so,
know, I supported this thing because I was told by Mark that this was gonna improve the surface parking, and it hasn't. It just hasn't, and I'm telling you why. Your daytime employees are not gonna use it at $70 a month, they're not.
so we modeled it after St. Luke's, Newburgh. Up in Newburgh, they're paying $50 for a 40 hours a day. I'm waiting when it's hospital. Wait, so it's two a month to the hospital. Yes.
Are you done?
I'm very familiar with it. Sorry, we can go back there, I just wanted to, because at that hospital, I used to do some work up there. There is no parking available, so they're gonna pay, because the streets, there's permit parking there, and you're not allowed to park in a lot of areas, so that's not really a fair comparison. And the neighborhood, the type of neighborhood it is, as far as, it's not as big, Newburgh is more of a city. We're a very small, quiet residential neighborhood, and the constant turnaround and disrespect for a lot of people will sit there with their music on, they'll come at 4 o'clock in the morning. Boom, 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 boom. We're like, what the hell's going on? Because we live a few houses down in. Oh, yeah, you know, and you're like, what's going on? And then they're sitting in there for half an hour, you know, on their phones, and I don't mind it, we should, I don't. You should be able to park wherever you like, but the problem is there's just a pattern of disrespect for the people who are living there, and they're just not quiet. Some people are, some people aren't. And it's just like a total frenzy, and we understood that the whole point of the parking garage was to ease that. And if there's a fee involved for the employees, I know if I had to pay, say, $7 a day to park and I'm working, and all I have to do is go 1 block away and park for free, I'm gonna park for free. Why would I wanna pay that? I'd rather buy my lunch for $7 than, you know, so something's a little off there.
I'll bring these points back, these are, you know, good points, and we want to make it better for the residents and be good neighbors, but, you know, there's certain people make a lot of money that work at the hospital, and certain people like security guards that work for me don't make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Environmental service people don't make a lot of money, they're not gonna pay $70 a month, they're gonna continue to park on the street. Or they can go to where a lot of on IW.
How about sliding scale, right, based on what they make?
Yeah, exactly.
Some suggestions.
Would a millionaire even pay? Like, that's not the point, right? Like, that's why millionaires are millionaires. They don't pay. If you're good with job, you want a parking spot to be able to do your job, and if not, you're not gonna pay for it.
And so the people who come in now are told we have a parking garage, and there's people who were there. From the past, they don't want to pay, and they're taking their feet in, and they're parking on IW, or they're parking on the street, you know. Unless there's some village ordinance where you're not allowed to park on the street, they're gonna simply be parking.
Unless it's a free,
What's that?
unless the parking garage.
Like the parking garage, where we have to, you know, trying to cover their expenses, you know, we have valet parking, there's a lot of expenses associated with the garage. I went to it with 50/50 after the meeting. You guys want to get involved? I'm teasing.
It's not funny.
No, I know.
It's not.
But that's, they're trying to cover their expenses, and I'm sure it doesn't touch the mortgage, right? It was like $13 million to know that, so it's just to cover the daily, day-to-day expenses with the valet parking and everything. Other than cost.
It also pays back, right, yeah. It pays back,
There's a cost to the neighbors.
yes.
And experience management.
Oh, I understand.
You're constantly driving our cars in our driveway, you know, because we can never park on the street, because, you know, as soon as one person pulls away, then that's when it's there. Like, it's like, they ride around looking and then, oh my God, there's one. You know, I could never, my tree that in front of my house is always, you know, branches dropping down. I can never see it because there's always a car there. There's always a car there. and
I'm
that's-
surprised they're parking overnight though, because it is free.
Well, they do park overnight, yeah. I've seen.
It's her favorite spot.
Let me tell you, I know I'm on a roll here and I'm pretty passionate about this. Mark came to this body twice. First time selling the new ER and the clinics that were going to be above the ER. He said that was going to change and it was going to put in surface parking because we're going to keep people out of the ER. We were going to keep people healthy. Then he came here to this body and said, we want to build a lot. Same thing. I've said it before. I'm gonna email Mark. I didn't know you were gonna be here. Are you gonna be back? I mean,
Sure.
You know. Because I've heard no promises. I'm gonna bring it back is what you said. I'm gonna bring it back. That. I try to deal with parking every day, so. I guess they can't park in front of my house. I mean, you know what I mean?
I can't, cut the rates and make it free for the employees, that's.
I understand. You're in a difficult
So I
spot.
have to
You're
bring
not
it
the
back.
guy that should be here really, but
All right.
That's fine.
that's really the problem.
I'll bring it back to Dr. Geller, the leadership and I think.
Could we invite Mark, guys? Could we invite Mark here?
Sure. Yeah, we can. We have in the past.
Yeah, there is.
3 to 6.
Yeah,
Oh, there, yeah, the question is about the, for the residents, Joe, why don't you ask?
Yeah, aren't there streets up in that area that just, I'm only asking if there's a difference between the streets up in that area that do have, I think, daytime alternate side. There's a couple of streets that have that where you have to move it, what is it, 10 to 12 in the morning?
Right.
Is that the right time? Do I have the right time?
Shift changes.
So, yeah, I'm curious, does that street get as much parking by hospital employees as the other streets do, or do people avoid it because they have to go move their car for 2 hours?
No.
No, they're full.
It helps, but the second the shift changes, they know the times to come, and then we'll just start. pulling-
Explain it to me. I don't understand what you mean by, does it align with shift change? Is that what you're saying?
Say it's, you know, you can park on the street till 11 o'clock every other day, then their shift maybe starts at 10 o'clock.
I don't think it aligns with shifts, but they know enough to go out and move their
Right.
car.
What it is they all come out at 40 to 11, they take a break. And then they come out and then they park there, they're all like they're lines, like.
And they move the car to the other side.
No, there is no other side. It's only one side.
Oh.
Like,
They said to move the car? or-
But that's only Front Street, because I mean, I'm on Sixth and Francis.
There's a time where you can't park on the street and there's no cars, and there's a time when you can park on the street and then there's hospital cars. You follow? Like, it doesn't matter when their shifts are. They're consuming the spots available when they're there to work.
So the alternate side doesn't do anything.
It doesn't help because there's only one side of street parking on Front Street.
It's only allowed one.
It's either you can park on the street or you can't park on the
That's
street.
because.
They just park there once they're allowed to park there.
That's not only there,
Yeah.
That's fifth, between fifth and sixth, not between sixth and.
Right.
There you can have all of it.
Because that was designed to try to stop that. That was, I think, why that was put in place,
Yeah,
was
there's a study done and try to do that.
to try to diminish their parking, as they would have the inconvenience of having to move the car from, move the car out or only be able to park there after the time. You're saying that doesn't have, it's not working that way. That's what I'm curious.
It made a difference, but then they just created a new pattern of behavior based upon the restrictions.
It also inconveniences you, I would think, because you have the same restriction. It's not just on.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, they moved down to a block where you can park all day.
Yeah, that only addresses the issues on one part of the street.
Yeah, I was curious as to whether it does impact behavior, because if it does impact behavior, maybe it's a solution for the other streets as well. But it doesn't apparently do that.
I don't think it does. I honestly think it'll make it worse, especially when school.
Yeah, we're not going to solve this tonight. So there were several questions that we need to get responses back on that people have asked. If we could make sure, I think we're recording this so we can make sure that we get those. I will, if you'll speak with Mark and let him know the discussion. And if there are any other questions that have not been raised, bring them, send an email to our clerk and we'll make sure that they get sent to the hospital. We'll work and see if we can have another meeting, and we do our parking meetings every quarter, so maybe in 3 months, but you'll probably want to hear before that. Let us see what we can do as far as having another meeting to talk about it. And we'll get back to everybody. We tried to get everybody informed. I hope we did for this meeting, and we'll do the same thing again. So we have some answers, Steve, that we need to get back, and we'll
Back to Dr. Geller in the hospital and get some answers.
actually, we have all of your email addresses, yes? Did you all get emails for this meeting?
No.
No?
No.
Okay, so Jen, could we just get a sign up sheet and have people put their emails on?
Yeah.
Um,
And if you have friends that you know would like to be also informed and you know their email, you can put them on as well. We are trying to make sure that we can reach out to the people that are affected by this and let them know if we're having a meeting about it, or we have a proposal, or there's been a communication of some sort. So sign up on the sign up sheet. We're not going to spam you. We're not going to send you anything unrelated to it. Just the parking stuff. We promise.
we'll just put fundraisers in every third time. Yes,
Good question. My understanding is that metered parking is being considered for Front Street. Is there any
No.
to that?
no, the board rejected that as soon as it came up. It was actually for Front Street and for Fifth Avenue, Sixth Avenue. Fifth. By Bosse's, that whole area, and we rejected that a year and a half ago. It was in the original proposal to do that, yes, or we rejected that a while ago. So that is no longer on the table for any discussion.
The problem is finding a way to disincentivize the employees from parking there, but it doesn't inconvenience the residents from parking. And that's what's hard.
Yeah,
That's the big.
and our strategy for parking is, except for around the hospital, has always been to not put meters in residential areas. That's not something that we've done as Nyack in the parking.
About resident parking, you have a permit to do it there.
We've looked at that. It requires it requires the state approval to do that. We've looked at it though, and it's a possibility of something that.
It is a possibility.
It's a big lift.
It's a big lift, but it also it just pushes it out. So we have to think carefully about how we do it. It's not just, let's just do residential parking. It really, like, I think it took Terrytown about 6 years to get theirs right, and they still don't think it's right. Just because of the way it moves people around. So we have to think, I don't know if we can do something other than that that's creative. I think some of the things that John brought up are interesting in changing the way the charges, but that's not our call. That's the hospital's call. But we'll have to work together. We'll keep working together and see if we can figure out something.
I would also encourage, some of you mentioned some bad behavior, playing music loud early in the morning. I know I was talking to a resident involving people starting their car. We actually had an email exchange about that. They are responsive to that. They don't want people doing that. That people parking on the street, they don't want them doing that either, but they can't, there's financial feasibility issues about giving free parking in the parking lot. But if there are people misbehaving, let them take the license plate down and call it into the hospital, and they will talk to the employee about it. They have, when that's come up before. You can't stop people necessarily from parking there, but you can stop them from parking there and abusing the opportunity.
The best answer is the simplest.
Hospital.
That's so simple, it's so straightforward. Don't deal with permits, meters, signs, nothing.
Well, not our call. And we don't have the money to give the hospital in order to make it free, so that's a tough one. So we'll keep the conversation going as we can. We'll try to schedule another meeting in the next couple months, so that we can get responses back, or if we can, we'll try to respond by email about what the answers are. But sometimes it's easier to do it in a discussion than it is over email, because that can raise some concerns if we do it that way. Okay, so email us to the clerk if you have any other questions that you need answered. We'll forward them on to the hospital, or you can go directly to Steve. I'm sure a lot of people already have your email and phone.
Give me my call. if anybody wants to-
So either way, and we'll, as soon as Steve has a chance to talk with Dr. Geller, I'm sure he'll call me and we'll try to set something up.
I'm gonna reach out to Mark.
Sorry,
I'm gonna reach out to Mark.
that's fine. You can do whatever you, yeah, of course, yeah, you can do it, yeah, of course. Anybody can. He's pretty public about his stuff. Okay, so we're gonna move, if we're okay, we're gonna move to our next agenda area. Okay,
Thank you for your help.
I don't feel like we were all like, Steve, thank you very much for coming and presenting your information. So we're now going to move into a parking authority meeting. I actually we'll try to do this as quickly as we can. So the major agenda item for the parking authority agenda is for us to discuss the river space parking lot and the current policy right now that's 1 hour free. Andy has given us documentation of the impact of that on our income. And I think let's talk about it first, and then if depending on what we do about this, there's a process that we're going to have to follow based on our parking authority policies. So Andy, do you want to present? And I know Wilson is here as well.
Yeah. So you'll probably remember in early May, in recognition of the distress largely of the supermarket, the parking authority voted to change the river space.
Sorry, Andy, I didn't hear the first part of what you said. I'm sorry. Could you look this way?
Sorry.
The
And I think right about May 4th, the parking authority had a meeting and voted to adjust the river space parking lot policy from what it has been, which is a long, you can park there for as many hours as you pay for, essentially up to a certain limit. I forget if it's 9 or 10 or 11. And add in a 1 hour free piece to facilitate the coming and going of customers to the nearby stores, whether the supermarket or somewhere else. The costs of that are outlined in this memo here in terms of revenues. The benefits are the convenience of not even having to go to a muni meter or fiddle with the app in order to spend an hour shopping. The policy was advertised, their signs went up, and it's been certainly actively used. The challenge that we're facing is that it does cost a fair amount of revenue loss, both in terms of the coin received at the kiosk and the Park Mobile usage and those revenue differences. We're looking at this in terms of a comparison to last year, so we're assuming that last year is a good kind of reference point. It doesn't go back many years or anything like that. And if we assume that to be true, there's no other variables operating except for that change in policy, then we're losing some money. If it continues the way it's tracking right now, it will be about $60,000 by the end of the year. That's more than anticipated. It is worth remembering that overall the parking authority is financially in good shape. And Jen has a report on the financials to show that. Overall, our enforcement activity is very active, and the revenue generated from enforcement is running ahead of last year overall for May, June, and July. But for this particular lot, it's definitely showing a decline. There are technological challenges to that 1 hour that have made it harder to hold people accountable. Chiefly that if someone pays for parking at the expiration of their time, they appear on our handhelds as unpaid. And we don't know if they're enjoying their first 1 hour free or if they actually haven't expired. And that's a technological glitch and a challenge for the,
Can you explain that again? Just I didn't follow that.
The-
What?
so if you park in,
You park for an
if you
hour
park
and then you
somewhere,
pay for 2 hours.
you pay for 2 hours, I come by 2.5 hours, your thing shows unpaid. And I don't know if you just got there and are enjoying your first hour free, or if you're having, if you actually ran out of paid
Parked in
time.
another lot. You took the 2 hours. You came here, you're 2.5 hours. Have you already been there an hour?
This is showing
Or
us
is
that.
it- so it's showing as not being paid.
In that case, they would not have seen that car in that lot earlier.
I've walked around with our park enforcement aides and done license plates myself. I can't say that I understand all of the details of the way they do their enforcement. But there is a challenge to implementing the 1 hour free, which is on the tail end there, when you have unpaid license plates that you don't know for sure whether they just showed up or they've been there for a little while. So there's a reason why the enforcement, the ticketing revenue is falling off a bit, because they're kind of chasing ghosts, is the way they put it. They are e-chalking and registering cars as there, then going back to check. But it's labor intensive and there are challenges. And so the enforcement in that lot is not, it's not able to maintain the same level that it had at this time last year in terms of the revenue generation from the fines coming in. The money side of it is declining a bit as well. We're looking at on the app comparatively about $7,000 less than the year before. On the kiosk, about $1,500. So you see those declines. And so it's just going to add up over time. So the policy has a financial impact. It has beneficial aspects as well. It's a trade-off. And when the village board authorized it, it was authorized as a temporary measure, as an adjustment to aid primarily, I think, the supermarket in getting its feet under it. And it's expiring. If the village board wants, it can do another couple of months on that by passing the same resolution again as a parking authority. For it to become durable, it would need to be a resolution of the village board actually changing the policy permanently. That's not on the table right now. We could talk about other approaches, which I outlined in my memo a little bit. As a way of kind of rebalancing it a bit. One of them would be to restrict the 1 hour free policy just to 1 or 2 rows. So that the rest of the parking lot would operate normally, and we wouldn't have quite as much of a problem chasing these 1 hour free license plates, which could be anywhere within the lot, and they're hard to track. That would come at the cost of some signage and sort of implementation, communications, kind of rolling back the existing policy and implementing an adjusted policy. But that's certainly something that the board could consider. Another option is to allow the policy to expire and revert to normal. And so I think those are the 3 options, basically. Hit repeat, continue the experiment, change the policy, or eliminate the policy.
Is there any reason to believe that either one, they'll get more efficient at enforcement, and so we'll collect more money, or that the 3 months that we chose, which happen to be early summer months, might be different behaviors than December, January, February? I mean, our collections are usually higher this time of year, I would assume, than in the winter.
Yeah, those are 2
Overall.
really good questions. I'd have to think about that and research it a bit.
I also,
But we're definitely on track to lose money this year,
We thought we would lose about 28,000, that was our projections,
That
about
was-
twice that.
right?
But it might not, it might end up being closer if. If this is an unrepresentative 3-month sample, it's, you know, starting pains and. I'm trying to think positively.
yeah, I mean, to that point though, the last time we discussed this, we had at least some indication on the supermarket's part as to where their financial status was.
Right.
Do we have that now?
I don't have recent data. Maybe we should
Yeah.
allow Mr. Bermeo to speak to that question.
Yeah, I'd just like to see if there's a, yeah, like if has there been a change in revenue, increase, decrease, anything, stay the same?
It would be anecdotal, but maybe invite Mr. Bermeo to.
Yeah,
address it.
I'm curious.
Yeah.
Do you want to,
How are you?
good,
Definitely get a better, is getting, slowly getting better.
Why don't you come up so we can.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely this gets a lot better now because people feel more like comfortable to come to shop. We see the increase little by little every week, more customers are coming. Since the last 2 months, we have it, we used to receive like a 3,400 transactions a week. Now we almost, I think it's 4,500 transactions a week. It's keep going, people feel like more comfortable, it's coming, you know. That would be, it's really good for us and also the customers feel more comfortable to come, you know, that's really, really good for impact for the community too. But end of the day is your decision, you know, but you can do it in case it help the business and also help the community as well. Thank you.
I have one more question. Say we went with like 1 or 2 rows, do you know what the impact would look like at all? For that lot? Financially, I mean.
All I know is that if the majority of the lot were to revert to normal, it would be a lot easier to manage the enforcement.
Okay.
And that the 1 or 2 rows dedicated to 1 hour free would basically be just clean losses on that. And then in that case, what I would recommend would be, it's just as a 1 hour max, 1 hour free. So we're not having people, we're not trying to see if someone is,
If you're there past 2 hours, you're
yeah,
getting.
if you're there after 61 minutes, you know, yeah.
Oh, so make.
Well,
one
yeah,
hour,
I meant
1
like,
hour maximum parking in that spot.
Right, because the current policy, you get you 1 hour, but then you're welcome to pay for more if you want. Which seems like a good thing, but then it creates this tail end problem, not knowing if someone hasn't paid, if they were already there for a while. And are taking advantage of another free session, which the point was to have 1 free session per person per day. If we did a 1 hour max row or so, the enforcement is much clearer. You know, either they've been there for an hour, or they haven't. Period. We have other instances where there's time limit.
Oh, you're saying, I misunderstood you. You're saying that if we had a row that we applied free hour parking, it would be 1 hour maximum for just that row.
Right,
The rest of the lot would be under the normal 3 hour.
then we
rule.
go back to our,
and easier to.
Okay, I thought you were saying the whole-
Yeah.
Lot would be.
we're making Wilson stand here. Do you
Yeah.
have any other questions
Yeah,
for
you're good.
Wilson?
I'm good.
Thank you.
Who got that?
Sorry.
Who won the car?
I actually had a question.
Yeah, just a second, John. I saw you. I'll get you. I promise.
No, my question was for him.
Oh, okay.
You just said that your business is getting better. I don't know how, first of all, do you have any data that proves to because of parking?
See,
Or
holding
is
for
it just, there's a business, what is it, sure. How do you
That-
know it's because of parking?
The parking situation was a big issue since then. We haven't increased of customers
Isn't it dialogue?
coming into the facilities since we started the tickets. No finance. And
I'm gonna stop this now because he doesn't have the data. So you're asking for something that he doesn't have.
Well, I think.
We
he
can
made a
certainly-
statement- He made a statement that his business is better as a result of parking. And what I'm saying is he does not have that data, correct?
That's
a
fair.
bad, that's not a fair, it's not a fair comment.
Okay, but then make those comments to us, not to him, because we don't want to have an argument between two
I don't,
people.
I'm not arguing with that.
But that
I
it
feel
could
his
go,
pain. I feel his pain, but
it could,
I don't know how it's the village's problem or how it's my problem. Because I'm the one that's paying for this. And when
I
I say
understand.
time,
I completely understand.
what I understand, you must have had some sort of building, some good business plan, must have known what the expectations were. I don't know why it's the village's problem. That's all. And I also believe that you're treating this merchant different than any other merchant in the village.
John,
I
you
mean,
should
if I
have
was a
been, you
merchant
should have
in the
been at
village, I'd
the,
be asking for free parking.
you should have been at the meeting, the original meeting when
I
this was
didn't know they were-
discussed, because this is exactly some of the points that were brought up.
And-
You're bringing up the same points that we discussed.
Right,
And the decision was,
no, go ahead.
the decision was to do it for 2 months to see, because we had this brand new business that was struggling, was talking about closing. Should we give a 2-month shot to see what would happen? And now we're at the 2-month shot to see what happened. So we don't have data that proves that that parking helped them. And we don't have but we do have data that's showing that it's killing our revenue. So
And to answer Joe's question, according to what I'm reading here, you asked about the timeframe. This is a comparison. You can compare the same months in 2022 that you did this year. So it's not,
well, the difference
it's a fair
is,
comparison.
it's a bad comparison, because the next 3 months, the revenues may have been lower, and it might not be that we'll lose all 60,000. It might be that we lose 40,000 instead.
In other words, if revenues are down compared to last year by 10%, but we happen to measure the 2 heaviest revenue months of the year, that 10% is going to be a larger number than it would be for November, December. So it may not extrapolate that a $15,000 loss over a quarter would be $60,000 loss over a year.
I agree with that, except the data are comparable. He did the extrapolation, and I get that. It's a hard thing to do, but we do see that there's money being lost.
Yeah.
Joe and then Doug.
Yeah, and to the point that John's making, I remember at that meeting when it was decided to allow this trial period, that Wilson, the owner of the supermarket, said that he is willing to reimburse the village to some extent for the loss of tax revenue.
And we went through that, and as a legal issue, that would be very, very difficult for us to have done.
You say it's difficult, but does that mean that it's impossible?
It was actually, our lawyer told us that it would be next to impossible unless we did. If we offered every single place in the village to buy parking spots. So yes, it would be very, very difficult.
In my review of the shortfall, it looked like it might have been a little bit overstated, because you have both tickets issued and tickets paid. I don't think tickets issued are just cash paid. They're kind of double count. Just want to point that out.
Yeah,
That's a fair point. That's actually, yeah, that's good. Right,
It's
because
just simply quantifying the tickets that have been issued, they're basically payable.
okay, it's cash receivable for the,
right.
Yeah, that'll be on the next one. We're worried about cash flow. That's what it should be.
Makes sense. Thank you. Okay, boards, any other public comments about this? Board, what are we thinking here?
Well, I know that one of the reasons why we even looked at this to begin with is when Wilson came to us with his financials, saying that what he was losing and asking us for help to see if that would help, if parking would help his revenues. And what he's saying this evening is that it has gone up since we've done this. But to your point too, like, I know that he came with a plan, he knew that there wasn't going to be parking to begin with. We did something to help out, which I think was great, to give him, or give the community a fair shot for free parking. However, it has affected us as well. So in looking at this, I'm not, making a decision, but I'm gonna be looking at this and I don't know if I'm gonna be in favor of the free parking for the whole lot. And also you have shared with us that even managing that for our staff has been a little wonky in terms of trying to get that right. Were you gonna say something? Oh. So, you know, I'm on the fence. I mean, I'm looking at some of the options that you've given us and thank you for doing that. But at this juncture, me personally, and again, this is not my final decision, I'm not sure if I'm in favor of that whole lot being free again. I mean, because it's just, you know, where everybody is feeling something from that, and also our staff, which is important to be able to manage that accordingly to get the number, to get it right, exact number that we're not able to get right now.
Thank you, Donna. That's really helpful. I'm going to ask each board member to sort of do the same thing, then we'll go back to the choices and see if we have any sort of consensus.
Yeah, so I just wanna, to your statement, John, when we first discussed this, we discussed the fact that in various different ways, we try to be helpful to our businesses in the area. Whether it's putting out, bump outs or, you know, shutting streets down, any of the like, so we wanted to treat this the same way as that. That being said, what Donna has, to Donna's point, I would like to see those hard data financials like we had the last time. At this point, I'm not comfortable keeping the lot free. I'd be willing to entertain 1 row of 1 hour parking, no more than that, but until we kind of see those hard numbers, I have no issue sort of letting this expire until we figure that part out. Because we know, we don't know. I would have liked to see what we had last time, which was like a whole data sheet that she gave us. But I wouldn't go, if we want to split the difference and be as accommodating, I don't think I'd want to go past 1 row, 1 hour parking max.
Thank you. Let's go.
If the situation were to stay exactly the way it is right now, in terms of the loss of revenue, then it's unsustainable. That's obvious. My question is whether whether the 3 months, and you said 2 months, but it was May, June, July, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, but the policy of the parking authority is that we can do a temporary thing for 2 months. We let it go for 3 months because we didn't have the numbers ready.
Okay.
But technically, it's a 2-month thing. So if we were going to do it again, or anything that we do temporarily, it's 2 months, and we have to hold ourselves to make sure that within 2 months that we're making a decision on it, because what we've done is we've let it go for an extra month, and technically now it's our policy. So we will now have to rescind it formally and then vote on something new. So that's why I changed that.
I just want to clarify, because it was 3 months of data that we had, not 2 months. And it was May, June, July, which I would think would be heavy months, so the losses might be lower. And we might get better at enforcing. I have not sensed that lot being full during the week, like I've gone and I drive by and I don't see like every spot taken, which means that people aren't saying, oh, I'm gonna have to park, it's free, so I'm gonna go park there when I'm gonna go, do anything. But I also don't know whether or not we need, I don't know, how many spots are in that lot?
I can't remember off the top of my
It's
head,
gotta
I'm sorry.
be 30 maybe,
No, it's way more than that.
More than that.
or 40 maybe?
Yeah.
4 rows, 4 rows and probably at least 10 each.
Probably right. No,
All right,
it's way more than that.
my point is, I don't know if we need 40 spots for the supermarket. Like I don't know if they get 40 carts going through that supermarket at any given time.
In
But
addition to the 10 free.
in addition to 10 for that, what is it 10 that they have on the side?
think it's-
I would though be willing to think about, we've said it 2 months, it's been 3. We're now halfway through August. If we did August and September, take a look at this when we have the numbers for August and September. As a way of just seeing whether the losses reduce. I mean, this is 3 months. Was there any difference between May, June, and July? Do you know?
I just did a 3 month.
Okay, so we don't know if it changed over the course of 3 months. I'd be willing to think about that. I'm not wedded to it. I wasn't. I didn't love it when we did it, but I really did not want to. Face the possibility of this new business, which has been such a nice anchor for the downtown, to not give them every opportunity to succeed. And I realized that them going up in business is a correlation. It's both the summer and they were in business for more than a few months now, so they may have found their legs, and the parking all happen at the same time, so you can't necessarily make it a direct causal link. I'd be willing to entertain for 2 more months. I'd also, if people really felt strongly about restricting it to 1 row, I would be willing to do that as well.
All right. Any thoughts?
No, I basically, in fairness, agree with most everyone in that another 3 months, 2 months isn't gonna hurt us that badly, and we'll have time to reconsider 1 or 2 of these other alternatives that we have. So I, at this point, would just give us a couple of more months to work with him and work with our own authority and see where we go. Then after this, we do what we need to do.
Okay. I was I think I was opposed to this from the very beginning. I thought it was something that we were favoring a group of businesses over others. I thought giving it a shot for 2 months to see what it did, what happened would be worth it, because that maybe there were other things that we would need to look at for other businesses to maybe we would see something different than we see in our parking, but losing $60,000 in a year, and our financials are much better. And I think we've turned the parking authority around. Andy, congratulations to you and to Matt, and but we still have some makeup to do in the parking authority. So to lose 60 grand a year, that would go towards that, some of that makeup of, we have fairly significant burden in there, in deficit, in the financial deficit. So I would go, I would not be in favor of going for another 2 months the way it is right now. I might be able to say 2 months if it was 1 row. But I don't think, I couldn't go the way it is. I wasn't for it the last time. I don't think we should do it. We should do it again. So I think I think we've heard from all the boards. So I think what I'm hearing is that if there is a willingness to go for another trial period, but we can't do that unless we get some sort of indication that this is actually working. We can't just go on anecdotes and stuff. We got to know whether it's working or not for us to go beyond the 2 months. I hate making a change and then we're going to make another change in 2 months. I hate doing that, because every time we change something in parking, it creates all kinds of problems. And it just sort of cascades down, and our staff has a hard time in the building, outside. It becomes an issue. It's going to be tough on the fresh market, because they're going to have to, they're the ones that are going to be explaining this to everybody, not us. So I would rather us do it just sort of in one fell swoop, and almost do it for a while to see what happens, rather than just, I mean, the last time we changed the parking hours, we were still getting people that didn't know the parking hours had changed almost a year and a half later. So it's very difficult to do these changes incrementally. We got to do it once and live it for a while. So I guess I just changed my view, but
You talked yourself out of your.
myself out of the two. I don't know. I'm torn about this. we can't go forward the way it is.
No. Yeah,
Pascal, thank you for saying the thing about, we do try our best to help businesses throughout the village. The farmer's market is another thing that costs us probably about $10,000 a year in revenue for that parking lot. But it's a community enhancement that's worth that to our community. And I don't think very many people would argue with that. Some might, and they have a right to, but I don't think very many people would. And I know that there are growing concerns about we're loving to close our streets down because it is such a great atmosphere and it creates such a wonderful vibe in the village, but we do have to think about how many times we do it and how we do it moving forward. So let's go back to this. So are we willing as a board to go with 2 months, 1 row for a 2-month trial? Or is that,
I think that's the compromise position.
Yeah, I can. I'm
okay,
with
so
that.
in order to do that, Dennis, the process, we need to rescind the current.
Actually, you don't have to rescind it. Section 330-41 of our village code. If the village board, if you don't adopt that 60-day trial temporary regulation within that 60-day period, it's deemed null and void after the 60 days expires.
All right,
So it's null and void as we sit here.
okay,
I just,
I know, so I know that's another, I can imagine what you said is a handicap part.
well, no, I just did I'm walking around virtually in the parking lot on Google Maps. I just counted up the spaces since I was asked the question. There are 59 spaces total, plus 4 handicap spaces. There are 4 handicapped and exactly 10 non-handicapped spaces right in front. In other words, bordering this spot right here. I don't know if you can see my screen, but
There's how many handicap?
there's 10 plus 4
Okay.
in this spot. That's basically right here. That's
Right,
The
the
front of
row. The row.
right in front on the that basically borders the west wall. Yeah,
Okay,
west
I want to try to wrap this up because we're already a half hour late for our regular
I
meeting.
would suggest maybe a resolution that I could recite it, just acknowledging that the temporary that you adopted 3 months ago is now null and void by operation of our local law, 330-41, something simple like that would suffice.
Okay, I think the last time we went through this, the one thing that we were very clear on was that those parking spots are not for the fresh market. They're for the business and they're 1 hour parking for any business. And for people to go to anywhere in the community. Because I don't want to see fresh market signs and put up there, and so people feel like they can't park there. So give us our resolution, oh, master attorney.
The temporary we call free parking, what is it, the rivers, summarize with this temporary resolution that was adopted.
The resolution said that that lot would have a 1 hour free once per day per car, while maintaining the other meter enforcement and so on rules.
Oh, I have it right here. Thank you, Marie. Love that you're back. So the resolution of May 4, 2023, the resolution of the Parking Authority of May 4, 2023, creating the 1 hour free parking in the river space lot for a trial period of 60 to 90 days, we'll call it, is deemed null and void by operation of law, particularly section 330-41 of the Code of the Village of Nyack.
No, but they're, I thought.
So
they
you
were
want to
also
do that
saying they wanted
first,
to-
and then do
Yeah,
the,
well, instead of repealing it, you don't have to repeal, I just wanted a resolution recognizing that it's null and void because the village board did not adopt it as a permanent, so to speak, regulation within the 60-day period. If you don't do that within 60 days. of
okay, so give us the resolution real
Okay.
quick. Gotcha.
Since the village board of trustees did not formally adopt the temporary 60-day parking authority resolution of May 4, 2023, creating the 1 hour free parking space in the river space lot for that 60-day trial period. Since the 60 days has expired without that adoption by the village board of trustees by operation of section 330-41 of the Nyack Village Code, that temporary 60-day trial regulation is now null and void.
I'll move the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Now resolution for, did you want to do the resolution for the other ones for us, Pat?
And this now it's gonna be one row, maybe you can help me articulate what the substance of it is, and I'll give the lead.
So it's the same thing, except it's just for 1 row.
Okay.
And do you want the row that's the
The policy would be that one row of parking spaces will be 1 hour free, max 1 hour use.
Yes. And that would be, do we want to do the 10 spaces that are on the eastern side lot?
Yeah, that makes it easier.
It's, they're very self-contained.
John, you want to start me off and then I'll throw in the legal mumbo jumbo?
Well, one, two, or do we want to do this as a temporary, is it 2 months?
2 months trial.
The same 2-month trial language as the last time.
60 days, 330-41 Nyack Village Code.
For the 10 non-handicap spaces along the eastern edge of the parking lot.
Will benefit from a 1 hour.
1 hour free
One per day.
parking, capped at 1 hour maximum parking for the day.
No, I'm just interested in the exclusion of the handicap spots, but I guess what you're saying is you want to keep those available for long-term use. Yeah, I understand.
Those have meters on them.
Yeah.
Right,
They're metered right now.
right.
And again, that would be pursuant to 330-41 of the Nyack Village Code. 60-day trial basis.
Joe, you gonna make the motion?
So moved.
Donna, you're gonna second that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay. Joe and Donna, I'm trying to get us
I know.
through this
I
meeting.
got
I'm
you.
sorry to push, but any further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. I would accept a, Jen, we're gonna put off the financials until our next meeting. Okay.
Okay.
I would accept a motion to adjourn our parking authority meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
All in
Second.
favor? Opposed, motion carried. Would you please rise and join me as we begin our village meeting, and with apologies for a late start, we had a lot of stuff to do in that workshop. Please join us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah. Turn it off.
Yeah.
Because they don't hear us.
Yeah, maybe. we should do that.
And I just asked the question, are you doing it the next board meeting or are you gonna talk about the financial? When you're back in that, I was here about parking, not about the 1 hour parking. I was here really separately over parking, Joe and Andy invited me here, but if this discussion is gonna, parking discussion is gonna be next week or whenever, I'll be happy to wait. Since we're waiting.
Yeah, we don't.
Did you have issues that we didn't talk about? that you agree? Okay, so, we'll do it at our next meeting. We'll just have a half-hour meeting before. We'll do it at 7 o'clock. That's September 14th. I'm sorry, John. I didn't know you had other issues. My apologies.
I didn't realize that's who you were, John. I didn't recognize you, so I didn't know it was you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
My 14th, September 14th, 7 o'clock. Okay, we need to adopt our minutes of July 20th. I need a motion in a second.
So move second.
Are there any questions? I'm sure we'll have a chance to read through them. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. And I really am remiss, I should have done this at the very beginning, but Marie, welcome back. We're really happy to have you. Good to see you. And
Jen, one abstention?
yes, one
Oh,
abstention.
okay. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Our public hearing on the amendment of chapter 187, filming for the code of Village of Nyack, was kept open from our last meeting. We are past 8 o'clock, so we will open the public hearing for any public comment on that law.
The film permit?
Yes.
That's gonna guess. I was just saying if there was an update from what we had spoke about in the previous
The
meeting.
law is already drafted.
Oh, no, that's what I'm, yeah, I see that there. I wasn't able to attend the last meeting, so I was just.
That's why we can.
That's why we continued it, so you would have a chance to talk.
No, I was just saying if we were able to define from what we spoke about in the previous meeting. about-
It's in, did you read the?
Yeah, I'm reading it right now. I see it.
So, yes, we did, we pretty much did everything. We defined everything. We set limits. We defined the designated areas.
Do you know which section it would talk about how much?
It's the definition of directly impacted merchant. It's not actually a number of feet. It's right there. It's pretty simple. Directly impacted merchant. It's
on page 5, you know,
Yeah.
where ours are.
Directly impacted merchant, yep. And then it says, so it would have to be where their door entrance area is kind of blocked.
it speaks for itself, and it's fairly simple. I don't wanna. I don't wanna butcher it by trying to redraft it and explain it. I'm not trying to be cute. It's just, it's right there. It's
I'm just asking for a brief
He's the lawyer, he
explanation.
doesn't want to interpret the law.
All right, it's not that, it's just that we took a lot of time to write it with the placement of every comma,
Read it,
and I'll read it.
not you.
Examples of what would be a directly impacted merchant are closures, restrictions, or constraints. And here are examples. 1, the merchant's public entrance / exit doorway is blocked. 2, the public sidewalk abutting the merchant's place of business is blocked. And 3, on-street parking spaces which are fully or partially in front of and on the same side of the street as the merchant's place of business are blocked. So those are examples, illustrative examples of what would be a directly impacted merchant. But it's also preceded by another description, which I don't want to belabor this any further, but it's right there, the first sentence.
So can I ask a question then? If it was on the same adjacent side of the block, if let's say my business is at the corner where the antique store is, and they're filming a little bit farther down where Soulflight is, and it's on that same adjacent side, with the definition of the language that's here right now, would that qualify as close enough based on that third one under the main? So like what, there's still some kind of like, would that qualify or not?
If your entryway is not blocked, the sidewalk abutting your place of business is not blocked. And if the parking spaces that are in front of your place of business, or partially in front of, on the same side of the street are not blocked, then you would probably not be, you would not be a directly impacted.
So for that third subsection that you had said, on the street parking spaces which are fully or partially in front of and on the same side of the street as the merchant's place of business are blocked. So if I'm on the same side as Soulflight and I'm at the corner right by the antique store, and then Soulflight, let's say from there on, is blocked off. I'm on the same side technically. We're on the same portion of the block, but it's not directly in front of my business. What I am,
It says and.
Yes, so then, yeah, you would not qualify under number 3. Because the parking spaces in front of your business, the way you just described it, would not be blocked. Right?
so it's cut down the amount of blockers from what I understand from what the previous, when you guys had written the contract to NBC. It was, I was told that it was the adjacent side, the exact same side of the block as what the contract for NBC was. So I was told because it was off the corner of my block. That, sorry, it has to be on the same side of the block. Now, from this language, from what I understand, I could be wrong. We've cut that spaces, we've cut that down now to directly in front of my door. I'm just asking.
We've defined it to be that, yes, that's what the definition is.
Are like, I'm asking you guys as trustees, that you guys are elected members of the community and you have to look out for small businesses too. Do you think that doesn't affect the small business where if on the same side of the block, on the exact same block, meaning a few doors down, if that's blocked off and I don't have sufficient parking for my customers, do you guys think that's really fair to small businesses? We're on the exact same block, I don't know, I don't think that's really necessarily fair. And we went from trying to define a fair distance to now cutting it down even shorter, that just in front of my door is blocked. I have to get customers in, guys, I have to have somewhere to park.
The parking permits have gone up tremendously from previous years. I've noticed even the park had buses in front when they were doing FBI movie or show or whatever. I'm just trying to run a small business. My business attracts a lot of people to the town. I had just the other week a famous someone in film, ironic that we talk about this, who their production company lost data and we were able to recover it. So I think that there should be some kind of fair deliberation as to what this is affecting me too. I'm getting customers' complaints that they can't find parking anywhere. Now, and I sympathize for the other businesses like the grocery store. It's really tough to keep and maintain a business in this village. And, I just want a fair shake and a fair deliberation that, we find something that's fair, that's fair. I think that it's right in front of my door is not enough. That's one spot. And, these movie companies are coming in, taking over half the town compared to previous years. That, if I was to foil every single permit that's happened in the last year or two, and we put them on a chart on a map, you'll see it's tremendously more than what it is in previous years, and how I'm sure it affected other businesses. And I really like coming to these meetings and stuff. I don't want, you guys have so much, you guys are busy, you have other stuff you have to deliberate on. I don't want to go and knock on doors of every business and say, have you been affected by this? Because I talk to the other business owners in my area, and they're a little annoyed. And it's not something that's like life or death or like that pressing, but you feel a little annoyed when your customer can't find a spot and you see trucks everywhere and they're able to get parking. And you hear about how the town is kind of strapped for cash in certain areas, maybe not others, but then you wonder, like, are they giving more permits out compared to previous years to make up for money in different spots? And am I feeling that because when my customer comes to town and I get a phone call, George, I've been driving around 10 minutes, I can't find a spot anywhere. I don't want to create problems. I just want to be able to do my business in peace. And I picked Nyack because I love this town. I grew up in New City and I'm in a very niche field. I hired an engineer. We have people coming in from other portions, from Westchester and other portions of the country, and we have really high-end clients. I was quoted in Newsday for when Suffolk County got hacked by ransomware, by a cyber attack. And we're bringing notoriety to the town too. And we bring a value too, as a small business. And I just think that, I don't know, now you're cutting it down to right in front of my door. Where are my customers going to park? I have no idea like what to do and what's a fair solution, but I think that maybe it would be fair if in the code you included when you grant a permit. Because like, I'm curious now, if I file a FOIL, how many, when these companies, production companies apply for a permit, I'm curious to see how many times the village administrator or anyone who's in charge of granting this permit actually advocated for the small business to tell the production company, you have to go knock on this business's door and pay them.
It happens on every single one.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless I missed some, but I've sat in the office and heard them do that.
Has it always been one block, like the NBC contract?
I don't remember that. I don't remember, but I can tell you that the staff advocates for both our residents and our small businesses.
Do they do they check to see if they paid it or not? And like if the company actually goes to the small business and
I don't know. They do.
Don't they affidavit or sign off?
Could
Can I respond?
Can Andy respond first? If you know.
Andy,
Okay, well, yeah, I've only been, I've been involved with film from the beginning.
that's fine. We'll get your answer, but we just asked.
I just thought I'd share that.
We'll get you, Jack. Just sit. Hold on one second.
So is the question whether or not staff canvasses the neighborhood?
Do they follow up to ensure that the businesses have been paid, right?
Yeah, that the businesses that have been impacted.
They have to sign it. They do sign something, I believe.
Yeah, I thought the
So-
merchant signed that they received and maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know the details of that. I mean, the permits require notifications to the neighborhood.
Right,
There's posters on utility poles, so everybody knows it's happening. If they have a complaint or an issue, they call the film company. If it's not resolved, they usually come knocking on our door. Most of the times, the film companies compensate or adjust in order to accommodate some issue or concern that's been raised. Staff follows up on that to make sure that happens. That's the general process that Anne Marie goes through.
Good, thank you, Jack.
Roughly 15, 20 years ago, Nyack was considered the Wild West of film. Anything, you could do anything. And they did. They would just come to Village Hall, talk to Mary White, blah, blah, give them a check. Sometimes the checks were clear, sometimes they were bounced. Either way, and then they were told that they could do 2 spots in front of a store, which meant literally they took the entire block. Not only that, that they interrupted the entire block because nobody could get by. Customers could not get through. So that was before. So Mr. Bell, David Bell, who was in the film industry, and he had talked to, I think it might have been Jim or before that, I forget which. But anyway, they enacted the current law, which actually has worked out quite well, except that it has to be enforced. You know, it's, and that's where the film company has to go around to each business that is impacted within a block. Okay, both sides, you know, and those are the people that are impacted. They're impacted because the flow of traffic is short. So this is the way. I haven't read the new film thing, but it sounds very yeah, it sounds right in the top. So I like to think that we should really go back to the old one because it worked. It worked for
The one we currently have. Not
yeah,
changed.
yeah, the one that we currently have, as opposed to moving on to this unit. Yeah, it can be tweaked. Obviously, everything can be tweaked. I would recommend that you talk to David Bell. I don't know if you know David, but he can. He's down at the river, but he certainly like to talk to you about it, and he could feel, you know, pretty current on the film law, all that. So, and I had mentioned to him about how this was happening, and I wasn't sure that it was happening so quickly.
Oh, this is not quick, this has been 6
No,
months.
I didn't realize that we were at this stage. Okay, that's what I mean. Okay. So,
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Jack, that's very helpful, thanks.
I think what Jack is referring to is the old law, it's not really a law, it's been the practice.
Right, no, I
The
understand.
informal practice in the village administrator's office. And it's been kind of hodgepodge, it's not reflected on our local law, so I would.
And that's what we were being asked.
95% of this local law that's in front of you
It's from.
is to put into our code what has been done as a matter of practice that has not been formalized into a local law. So that, if you look at it, there's 2 pages that just deal with insurance. You know, the directly impacted merchant aspect of it is 2 sentences out of maybe 500.
Okay, I think we're at this point. My understanding is that what we've got here is what Dennis just explained. It's the way we currently are operating. So the rules about the parking, the rules about the one side of the street, only if it's in front of the park, is exactly the way we're doing it now. Is that the case?
I would say it's substantially.
Hold on a second, Andy.
That exactly is a strong word.
Okay.
there.
Is it, I mean, what we're being asked is, can it be, I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong,
Sure, Doc.
can we make it the entire block rather than just if it's blocking right in front of the building? Of the business? Is that what we've been doing, or have we been doing only if it's blocking right in front?
It's been. I mean, honestly, I have to talk with Anne Marie to get into the weeds of that.
Because I think
The language was ambiguous before it said directly impacted in the area of.
Okay, so we're trying to define in the area of, and it could be either one block or it could be just in front.
Could be interpreted in different ways.
I don't even think it's in the area of, it says, in addition to any fees, costs maintained in this chapter, the applicant shall reimburse directly impacted merchants the sum of $350.
George, yeah, we know that's what
What's
we're
the
trying,
directly
we've got
impacted
the, we're trying to meld both, and you asked us to do this, and we thought it was really the right thing to do.
Sure.
We're trying to meld
Practice.
the practice and the formal sort of agreement that they
Sure, no, I was
with
just
our law.
responding that he said the area, it
So-
didn't really say area.
So what our practice has been, is it just been the in front of it, or has it been the block? Because it's been the block, then we make it the block.
Let's make it the block, let's make it.
Because directly impacted actually,
We know what you want.
directly impacted. Has been understood to actually involve some impacts, not just nearby. And that's sort of the craft of it. The proposed definition specifies how those impacts take place. What we don't want is a situation where areas that are not directly impacted through any reasonable reading of that phrase are essentially running to the phone companies, saying everybody needs to get paid, who hasn't expressed any kind of inconvenience or, I mean, that's kind of the nub of it there. But it is. The bulk of this proposal is the putting into law matters which have been routinely permitted before. The specification directly impacted is a change which helps to guide the permitting process and for business to know what counts as directly impacted. I think reasonable people reading the existing law, when they hear the words directly impacted, the word directly and impacted go together to mean directly impacted and not just sort of in the area of or nearby or within a stone's throw, or maybe you can see it from there. That kind of ambiguity is what we're trying to get away from.
Right. But either one of them gets away with the ambiguity. So but do you have anything else that you want to say to talk with us about this? Because I'm going to try to get a sort of a lay of the land here.
I do want to say that I think Anne Marie does a really wonderful job of engaging both local businesses and the film permitting. The film permitting is an important part of the village, also because of the strikes and so on, it's likely to be much diminished. It's not going to have here to come.
Yeah. Can I just ask, not to add more discourse, why wouldn't, like, take your example with that block of soap, why wouldn't it be, like, if, why wouldn't the whole block be impacted, I guess that's what I'm asking.
Me too.
Because.
Sorry, it's.
No.
I mean, I don't want to be in a debate with the gentleman here.
I'm not debating, I'm just curious.
Let us work through this, otherwise it's going to be
Put a
a
pin down on something I think is really important,
Mhm.
which is that there are times a day when it can be hard to find parking on the block where you want to park. And that's always going to be the case in Nyack. It's representative of what a successful downtown is like. And so if you're removing a couple of spaces on a block, it doesn't fundamentally change that reality. Like, people need to drive around and look for parking, and there's always parking within a few blocks.
No, that's true.
So that kind of definition of impact is far too ambiguous to enact a law.
Okay.
There's people are gonna have to drive around looking for parking. If we remove spaces from a block, they're still gonna have to run around looking for parking. But if you remove spaces right in front of your business or block your doorway, that's a reasonable understanding of what directly impacted might mean.
Okay.
Okay, that's
Can I ask a question in a slightly different way? The example he gave, you own the furniture store at the corner of Broadway and Main. there's a street closure that closes 3 spots, but on the corner of Bird and Broadway. The 3 spots that come north from Bird. In pre all this, 6 months ago, before all this comes up, would you have considered the furniture shop to be directly impacted? When you were looking at who gets compensation? That's what I'm curious about. Under the looser kind of, there's some ambiguity or exercising some discretion, would you have compensated the furniture shop?
I think to answer that question. Probably. I don't actually administer the permit personally, but what typically happens is that the film companies flyer the neighborhood. And if they get a permit, they start their activity. And people who have expressions of inconvenience and so on, who haven't already contacted the film company saying, hey, I need some help here, are gonna do that, and they're gonna get a response, which is usually quite generous and far more than what the law provides for.
So you're saying in practice, it's sort of a user-generated approach where people who say, hey, you're blocking, you can take a couple spots, right down the block from my shop. I want my $350. The film companies, to keep the peace, are often paying it.
Typically, they're more interested in expediting than in arguing.
George, we need to deliberate this, so I'm not gonna allow there to be back.
Can I,
and forth.
after you guys are done, can I respond to what he said?
The public hearing, this is a public hearing for us.
I understand.
You give us your thoughts and then we have to deliberate. So.
Can I respond after you guys are done?
I think we know exactly.
We know exactly.
No, what you're gonna say to him is that if you're 3 blocks away and.
No. I was gonna say that I've gone through that process that he said, where you have to go chase the production company,
And then-
and it is a pain. It's not easy. You gotta chase people down.
But that doesn't matter about this definition. Because people that still, no matter what the definition is, there's still people that are gonna say they're impacted and are gonna have to chase down the company. So that's why I don't want to get into this debate. There's still going to be that happen. And it's still gonna happen.
That's why I just wanted to define it.
That's what we're trying to do.
No problem. I got it.
George, I think we literally continued this hearing from last time, so you could be here. And we've heard you spoke a long time, but let us finish this.
You got my piece.
Thank you, George.
Yeah.
Andy, so the point is, you're saying it's always been kind of ambiguous, and we're now trying to put a rule on it to make it a little bit more clear, but in practice,
It's a case by case.
it's to some extent, people are gonna go, and then I guess my question is, the paragraph here about what a directly impacted merchant is itself pretty broad, and could be read in a lot of different ways. So there's a certain amount of discretion that you still would have, because you can correct me if I'm wrong. Yes, it's illustrative examples, but they're not limited to those examples.
That's correct.
In other words, illustrative examples means these are examples of situations where these people have to be compensated. But there's no language in there that says those illustrative examples are exhaustive or are the only examples.
Correct.
So in my opinion, if someone came and said from the antique store complaining about the 3 spots, that if they came and said, I really should be compensated because there's only 10 spaces on the block and you've now taken 4 of them. And even if it was Pickwick, and they said, we're on the other side of the street, but you've taken 4 or 5 spaces that people park in and come to my shop, I would think that they would have a legitimate case. But I think that depends on the understanding that illustrative examples are examples of situations where you absolutely do have to compensate in these examples, but it's not by way of saying
There
that
could be
nothing
other
else.
scenarios, right?
And I don't mind that.
So this technically, this is a public hearing, so we're supposed to be hearing from the public. So did you have a comment, Jackie? And this is a great debate, but I just want to make sure that we get public comment if there is.
It's going to be a very short comment on Jackie Dexter from Valley Cottage, but I consider myself a Nyacker, and I work in Nyack on the weekends. And so, although where I work, we have our own parking lot, so agents can come in and out. We've actually been impacted at times, especially when they were doing production down at towards the bottom of the queue, and we couldn't get people who typically come on like the River Road and up to get into our parking lot couldn't. Primarily because of these big trucks that are like their food trucks that they bring along. And I do want to say that, on occasion, I mean, the streets get really boxed up with the crews and the trucks and so for us, it's not really that much of an issue, you know? And they have come to the door, talk to the owner, if you want to, you know, if you feel you need whatever, can you sign off on this, whatever, he doesn't ever get involved in that, but I'm just saying that I feel, you know, I look at maybe like Tremont has done things where sometimes they're using shops for their shoot, and other times it's the whole street. And so that they're being involved with, and so everyone gets some sort of compensation. Everyone on that block, which is Main Street, it's just one long street, gets some sort of compensation. And I just have to say, I think it's worked out well over in Tremont, not so much bigger place. But I do just want to say, from my experience, we have had the issue sometimes of agents not being able to get to it. But thanks.
I think to solve this issue is basically on the amendment, just to get rid of that illustrative examples.
Say that again. Okay.
Get rid of the illustrative examples, because that limits you. And basically, if a merchant can demonstrate that he has been impacted by filming, then, you know, he could talk to the village, he could talk to the film coordinators, and explain to them why he's been impacted. And I think that would, solve a lot of these problems.
The purpose of the law was to actually have illustrative examples.
I know,
so that
but
we
apparently it's limiting, in my view, it's limiting the.
Thank you.
Scope.
Thank you. So, any other public comment? All right, so, do we want to change that, the illustrative examples, or are we okay that illustrative examples allow for people to have other options?
I mean, I see illustrative examples as the floor, it's not the top, it's the bottom, so you can, it's just a place to start. For people.
Anybody else have any other thoughts?
To build on what she just said, I mean, maybe if we added language that made clear that the illustrative examples are a minimum.
Yeah.
At a minimum, these situations would qualify.
Yeah.
Okay, so
well, no, let's not give any other examples. Is that okay? We just leave it as that this is the minimum and there could be other options. So here's the process that we need to follow. If we're done with this discussion.
I just want to make one mention of something that I understand that you're looking for a remedy. I don't see this law as operating as the specific remedy you're looking for. I think it serves as guidelines for the community to work with the production companies to resolve any of these issues. I just want to make that kind of clear.
Yeah, it's codifying.
Right.
Which is what both Andy and Dennis said. It's taking our agreement and the current law and it's codifying it into the law. So it gives the same guidance that the agreement gives. So the process at this point would be that we would vote to close the public hearing. When we get to the point of considering the resolution later, and we would add the language. Right?
Yeah, I have a suggestion that may be a compromise and satisfy everyone in this room when we're ready.
Well, let's do that when we go to the motion. Right now, we need to close public comment.
Public hearing and no one can really discuss it
Right.
except us, not even Andy really. So would you like to hear it? It's pretty simple.
Right.
So the directly impacted merchant, the illustrative example or illustrative, I don't know how to pronounce it, so we'll do both. Number 3, which seems to be the point of contention. So it would read as I'm proposing that on-street parking spaces which are on the same street or road as the merchant's place of business, and within, I'm gonna suggest 100 feet. Again, on the same street or road, within 100 feet of the merchant's place of business, a block. The reason I'm suggesting 100 feet is, I did some research, an average city block in New York City from north to south is 264 feet. So 100 feet this way, 100 feet that way is 200 feet, which is still less than a New York City typical north-south block.
Yeah.
So that's my suggestion.
I didn't hear anybody talking about it, so I'm surprised by the suggestion.
All right.
Because now you're gonna have us thinking about, if it's at the end of the block, now we're going into a second block.
No, it has to be, well, I see what you're saying.
I see what
Right.
you're saying, Dennis, but I think it has to fit the blocks that we have. I think our blocks might be a home.
I think we pretty much had an agreement of what the board wanted to do, and that kind of changed. Or I think the thinking that we had, so I'm not sure why it was brought up.
Any further public comment?
Yes, we're gonna close the public hearing.
No, before you do, I'd like to add something. Just illustrate how this motion picture people defy this logic. What they do is that they bring in their own people, valet people, and I call stuff marking, stuff the block with their cars. They do it all the time. There's 2 blocks with their cars. That's what they do.
Well, we can certainly tell them that they can't do that, or
You can tell them that.
They get
Yes,
ticketed,
you
right?
can. You can certainly. You can tell them all you want.
We already have maximum minute.
Oh, so if we, oh, so, yeah.
You know, over the past 30, 40 years, I've seen this happen. They're defiant. They're a swarmy group and they're very defiant. And I think you're in for a life.
we've had several rounds. Thank you, Jack.
No, you haven't seen this.
We're not changing it.
We're not changing anything,
We're codifying what actually is the practice.
please.
So what I'm just concerned about is that if we're making this the minimum and the illustrative examples are not what the actual limit is. If you guys read the first 2 sentences again, or even just the first, it almost keeps it exactly the same as it was in the ambiguity, like it's very kind of not defined. A merchant whose place of business is located in an area where on-street parking, roadway traffic, or public sidewalk closures, restrictions, or constraints are caused for the merchant directly as a result of the applicant's filming activities. It's almost the exact same thing and leaves open that window that doesn't clearly define who's actually impacted or not. Does the merchant have to show that he lost money in some way? Like, what defines that? And we come back to this spot where, if I give you an example, like the antique store past the block, like, you know, it still leaves open a lot of interpretation, which I'm not sure why we don't just define it to the edge of the block or to the edge of the next block or whatever it is. At least we have a clear definition. But from what I understand, and I spoke to 2 buddies of mine, who were both attorneys from the previous law, this looks almost identical. From what I understand is you just have to prove you've been impacted. It doesn't matter how far it is. It doesn't matter, I could be a block and a half. If I lost a single dollar, I could demand that the company compensate me. And on top of that, I have examples where film companies, I've chased down production managers, I get handed a card, and then I have to somehow reach someone from another side of the country, from a film company, and it's a nightmare. And I don't really think there is a defined process for how the town enforces that these production companies are gonna actually go. They could say they put up flyers and stuff, but I've lived here many years, and I've gone through this, and I can show you production companies who have paid and who haven't. And people I've had to chase down. It's annoying. I just want a clear definition of the law, and so that we can make it fair for everyone. That's really all.
Thank you, Jackie, then Joe.
What if the production company had to put money into the fund that made it so that the companies that are on the street that get impacted if they actually have trouble reaching out to those companies and not getting any satisfaction for their losses, that there's a fund for a particular company, film company that's coming in to do something. Like that would be a separate fund that can help compensate people that are not getting compensation.
Because that puts the village in the middle and we have money now, we have to have escrow and that's a lot of burden on the village to. What should be private agreements. Joe?
That's exactly basically what I wanted to say, that the company should put up the bonds. They put up the bonds. When they get the permit, they should have a bond for commitment. A certain amount of money, whatever the village decides, to satisfy any disputes that have to arise. You know, that George doesn't have to chase after somebody on the other side of the country.
You would still be chasing. How do you think you can get the money out of the bond? You still got to chase, there's still got to be a judicial proceeding to basically get that money. You don't just go to the village says, here's $300-500.
Something doesn't get the money back until it can be demonstrated that all plans have been paid.
I'd like to move on, but I don't know if the board's gonna feel like we're ready to vote on the resolution with all this stuff.
I'm
ready to.
I'm ready to make, I would suggest 2 changes to it, which we'll get to when we get to the meeting. Which I think would make everybody, at least on the board, happy.
I think, I guess my other question is, do other areas, like, are there other river towns, who are there towns in Rockland who have filming codes? How do they define directly impacted purchase? Is this a standard definition that we're using? Is it just because of what we've done in practice of codifying it?
Second. It's the second.
Is the second one, so we don't know what other areas who deal.
Well, I know
with it.
there's some others that do not have anything at all
That
that
don't- and-
impacted their.
Okay. And Dennis, was there anything that you found in, or you didn't look?
I didn't look at other municipalities. I worked off what we were doing as part of our customer practice. I also looked at the permit application that we've been using for many years. And I incorporated a lot of that and came up with the proposed amendment. And also conversations with Anne Marie and Andy's office, who basically oversees the permit process. Like, what is the customer practice?
Okay.
Yes, Jack.
Again. Quite frankly, I don't think you've really done enough research on this. To really vote on this. I think you should look up and down the Hudson Valley and see what Peekskill is doing. What Hudson, New York is doing. You know, some of these other villages, Terrican. I think. Due diligence, you know, it's. I think it would be a disservice to the village of Nyack residents and the shop owners who voted on this loan.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, we're gonna close the public hearing. Motion to close the public hearing. Motion from Joe, second, any discussion? All in favor?
I,
Opposed, motion carried. Tomas. We're now to have our presentation about our tourism grant funding proposal.
Yeah, thank you so much, for inviting me. My name is Tom Schneck. I'm the president of the Nyack. And we'd like to do a presentation about the status of the Nyack tourism grants, which was moved to the village of Nyack, and Mr. Nyack has been the administrator for these grants, and we have been going through the process over the last couple of weeks, and was together with the new Assembly Nyack Business Council and came up with some recommendations. So we'd like to share this with you today. Maybe let's get started with kind of the timeline we've been in for the last couple of weeks. So the application was sent out to all the different organizations who typically in business who We typically participate that. It was also posted on the village website, so everybody was aware of that. The first deadline we had was for June 14th, where we said whoever wants to participate should indicate their interest. We had 20 different organizations who raised their hands and they would like to be part of that. Then the official deadline to submit the complete application was July 14th, 5 p.m. Out of those 20 invitations we received initially of interest, 15 applications were filled out. And what's interesting to see is that out of those 15, 10 were for 2023 events and 5 were for 2024 events. And then on August 1st, we had presentations of all the 2023 applicants. We invited them to a Zoom meeting to present their complete application and the available Q&As to the Nyack Business Council, which Joe was hosting. And then the Nyack Business Council was basically deliberating what kind of grants should be awarded. Today we would like to present those recommendations, which were taken by the Nyack Business Council for the 2023 applications. In total, we had available funds of $31,295, which were 5 months of hotel tax, which have been collected so far. And the idea is that in 2020, for the 2024 applications, that we're going to have another meeting with those applicants by probably end of November 2023 this year to decide what kind of grant should be awarded for those 5 remaining applications. So that was kind of the run through. And just as a refresher, obviously what these Nyack tourism grants are all about is about tourism, that we bring more guests or visitors to the village. And there are certain additional criteria how we asked the Nyack Business Council to vote on these different ideas. So number one, obviously increase the revenues in the Nyack business community, especially for hotels, shops, the restaurants, and the personal services businesses. Also very important to increase the overnight stays in the village because we know that people who stay here overnight also spend more time and money while they're here. Obviously, very important for us that it reflects the diversity of the village, promotes entrepreneurship and social inclusion. Obviously, also very important is that these ideas leverage the village assets such as water downtown, waterfront, and parks. And also important is that it creates repeatable and sustainable activities. So it's more like a Kickstarter, those grants, but hopefully then in year 2 or year 3, it's not even needed. And we can support other ideas. And also very important is that it really encourages the cooperation between businesses and nonprofits, that everybody's working together and it's not a siloed activity. So those were the things we had in mind when we had these different interventions. What I would like to show you now are 8 awards we would recommend, or the Nyack Business Council would recommend to the Board of Trustees. Starting out with a application from Hotstraw. They are planning a candlelight concert series with 2 world-class performances. One on November 11th with the harpist Richard Kibbe. We support the Yo-Yo Ma of the harp, so a little high-class performance we expected. And then on February 23rd, Viola da Gamba Quartet. The New Yorker Pole is one of the brightest lights in New York's early music scene. So Elliot Forrest is very excited to be able to bring those 2 performances here to Nyack. The idea is to do it at the First Reformed Church. The First Reformed Church has an audience capacity of about 300 people. And the expectation is also that they sell those out twice. And the post award for this event or for this event series is $4,000. The next one is an idea from Laura Brand, who's a local business owner here in town, and she wants to pick up on this idea of thrifting, which we all know is a very hot topic. She calls it thrifting through Nyack, and she wants to do these guided shopping tours, each group being people between 6 to 10 people. But the idea is that it connects all the retailers we have here in town with second-hand offerings such as Second Chance, Trilogy, On Bloom, Maria's Consignment, and some other ones. The good news about that, if you look at the location of those businesses, they are really nicely spread out through the whole village. So it connects really all parts of the village. And she also wants to combine this with visits a restaurant. So while they're thrifting and going to one part of the village to another, that they stop at certain locations and have a snack, have a coffee, have food and lunch. So she wants to bring this aspect also into this concept. And she has 2 weekends planned, one in October and one in November. She actually asked for more money, but what was the feedback was to say, okay, it sounds like a good idea, but let's just look at that, how it's going, because it's a brand new idea, how the first 2 weekends are going in October and November. And as then we all meet again as the Nyack Business Council at the end of November, we can think about financing other ones that at the beginning of 2024, because in total, she had planned 9. And we said, okay, let's start with a smaller award. And if you get basically those first 2 off the ground, then it's probably a good chance that we can do more before the beginning of 2024.
Tomas, could I ask you for sense of time that you just give us a real brief sort of flavor of each one?
Even faster.
Yeah, and then I know we haven't done that to anybody else, but and then we can, because we've all read.
You read the packet?
I did. I think most of us read the packet.
Okay,
So if you could just give us a good brief overview, and then if we have any questions, we'll ask.
Let me just go very quickly then. Phoenix Festival, 2nd year back of the theater festival. I think it's going to be huge. Just one nuance, it's going to be not just in Meridel, it's going to be all over the village, 6 different stages. So Nyack becomes the stage. They just one more aspect, maximum amount was 7,500. They asked for it. Nyack Business also felt this is gold standard of performance. We can have him down to we think for the whole amount. Then Mark Mangan, I mean, if you know him, he's thinking of the Spirit of Nyack. He did it successfully last year. He wants to do it again, but this time not just for South Broadway. He wants to do it for all the town, which is basically a big kickoff for the Halloween season. And he wants to ask me for $2,000. We're proposing $2,000. The local Travis Custer, he wants to do an Oktoberfest, Lagerfest. It's a date in mind, September 30th. I don't know if you already applied with you guys for Washington Street closing. So he wants to clean basically that trailer with food vendors in town, but also have some family activities. The award for that would be $2,500. Hotel Night, this was a new one, but I think it was very well received. They wanted to do a 6-month marketing and PR campaign, obviously about the hotel, but also really promoting all the other assets what Nyack has from a restaurant, from a retailer, and all the other attractions we have. And they expect through this campaign, through the awards, 6,950, that they can attract another 5,000 additional visitors and overnights in the village, which would be huge because they get us also more hotel tax into our profit. Black Parakeets, Terry Clark, he proposed a new idea. It's called the Nyack Arts, Crafts and Cocktail Festival. He wants to basically on one side bring a lot of artists here, maybe also have a sectional street closing. He needs to first get your approval for that. Then I think the uniqueness is basically to have a competition. You can basically make the best cocktails in town, which bar can do that, and tourists can go to that. I think the feeling was a great idea, but maybe a little too aggressive to pull off this year. So the idea is to give them $1,000 so you can explore this idea better, and hopefully in May 24 can execute on that. And then the Rivertown Film Festival, the idea is to do a Jonathan Demme close-up in November. What's great, I think, unique about that is that his son Brooklyn will host it. We will bring another group of people who work with Jonathan Demme, a lot of young people who work with him. Jonathan Demme had a favor for working with young people, so they will talk about their experiences, how it was like to work with them. They're going to show the film clips. So the awards is $1,400, for that. Yeah, and this is just a summary. Now again of these different awards. The number we had available was $2,000, and this adds up to $26,000. So it stays below what the maximum is. That's it.
Questions from the board or comments?
How many of these events is there a cost associated to the public? Like, do the public have to purchase tickets? How many of these events would
Great questions. I can go through this quickly. Arts Rock, you have to buy tickets, water park archivists, I don't know. It's a good question. Maybe, I don't know if Laura sells tickets for that or if people just show up. In theater, you have to buy tickets. Spirit night is free. The tours rest is free. Experience night package costs, because the restaurant and nights. Arts and garage is free. And something that is a cost.
So like around half.
Any other questions, thoughts? Was there any thought, I mean, one of the things that the board, I think, stressed to when we were working on the criteria for how we would make decisions was around the inclusiveness of our entire community across socioeconomic, racial issues. Was there any thought about having some of the extra money used as scholarships for people to go to some of these events that might not be able to afford them? I mean, you don't have to answer that, but it's just something that I think should be considered. It's something really important that we don't create an event that only certain demographic of people can afford to go to, but that we're creating events that our entire community can take part in. And I think that's the sense of the board about how we use these funds.
I mean, I don't know, you know this better, the language of these grants and what is sure that is inclusive or that be amended, but I know that Phoenix, for example, is very interested in bringing, especially.
I know they did some scholarship funds, so last year they did do that. But I would think working with, and it was also some stuff working with the nonprofits, you could work with them to sort of come up with some strategies. Might be just something to talk to folks about.
I would actually say, I mean, I would not have perceived the authority of the business council to do that, given the charter we had, but it's certainly within our authority.
Yeah.
To say we're gonna put $5,000 towards supporting these events with tickets to be distributed through channels to people who might need them.
Yeah,
Because there's several events here that,
as I was reading through it, I thought these are great events for our entire community to go to. And wouldn't it be great if we had ways of making sure that everyone got to them? So Joe, you're right, we could make that decision.
we could say we have 32,000 allocated, we only allocated 26, so we have at least $5 grand that we can put into that.
I also kind of want to think about that too, because in terms of the interests of the community, I mean, did we explore like what other people may have considered as something that they would like?
We only considered the proposals that were given to us.
But I think we should try to encourage. And that may be something that going forward, let's try to make sure that we're reaching out to communities to make sure that they know about these grants and that they can apply to them. I think, for example, we certainly should talk to whoever organizes for example, the African American Day Parade. Because that's not until next summer, about doing marketing for it, so they've never done marketing.
I sensed the Mary Line. She got it.
Yeah, it's something that I think as a business council and as a village, we need to work on. We knew the first one, it's gonna take a while to catch traction. But it was just something that I thought about as I was reading through it and knowing that was something that was important to all of us. And you were involved, it was important to you too, it's not just us, but
And that's what came up with the film, because that Phoenix Festival group, they're fantastic. But the documentary that was just for the village, it was like $25 for people and $35. And so it came up, I think, at both of those showings that people were saying that there were other people that weren't able to come, maybe because of monetary reasons.
And we have a solution for that.
Yes, we do. So
So
that's another reason why,
So, yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit later, but yes, absolutely. But those are the things I think, just in your deliberations with people, that is really the sense and the value system that we operate from. So,
I mean, that's something you could ask even in the grant application that they carve out a certain amount of tickets for. For specific populations.
Okay, so we will be voting on this. Are there any other questions about the presentation about the grants themselves? Tomas, thank you so much for championing this with us.
You did a great job.
Also,
Thank you for all your support.
so this is really exciting opportunity for us as a village to do this, and it's our first shot, and we'll see how it goes in the future. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We will now open up for public comment on any one of our resolutions. Our first resolution, I'll go over each one of them. And then if anyone has any comments on them, we're certainly willing to take them. The first one is for us to accept our audited voucher summary. The second is for us to approve a permit for an event for Rivertown Films in Memorial Park. The third is for us to approve a permit for the annual back to school barbecue event in Memorial Park on August 26th. You can see a date on that other one. The next is the fourth one is for approval of permit for the use of the park, the gazebo for a marriage ceremony on September 8th. The next is for us to approve the tourism grants. The next is for us to for the resolution for the tree law. And the next is, and the last one, I believe, is for the local law on the filming. So any public comment on any of our resolutions?
On the tourism stuff, it sounds great, I mean, that's like a wonderful idea. Where does that get advertised? You're saying you want to bring folks into the village. Where would I find out about that? And where would somebody in Suffolk or, New York City find out?
About the grants
No,
themselves?
not about the grants, about the activities.
Yeah, that
Or
part
is that
of,
not done yet?
no, it's not done yet, but part of the grant was to
Actually,
work
the whole
with
grant.
Visit Nyack. The whole grant is to advertise all this stuff to get people in the village.
The grants are really marketing grants, because like, for example, they can't spend the money on anything other than prescribed marketing uses, so it's all about trying to market. the
Yeah,
village.
that's great. I'm not questioning that.
No, it's a good question.
How are you gonna manage people that are eligible, you can do tickets or free tickets? That sounds like a challenge.
Yeah,
How would you
We'll do it. We've done it before.
Yes.
We've done it before. We can do it through
Oh, sorry.
nonprofits. We can do it through the United Way. We can do it through the churches. We can do it through community groups. We could just give certain amounts to them and say, these are the criteria for them to get in. Yes,
Hi there, I think the community's made, because I had a, something that I wanted to present before.
we're doing public comments. We're going to work through our resolutions, and then there'll be public comments on any item that you want. Okay, so bear with us for another maybe 15 minutes and we'll be doing that.
I didn't mean to say that.
Oh, that's right. We're always too informed. Okay, so let's move through our resolutions. We need a motion and second for resolution 6.1 for our accepting our audited voucher.
So moved.
second,
Any questions? Second, for Pascal. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. A resolution for us to approve the Rivertown film date for Memorial Park.
Motion. Second.
Any discussion? It's on August 26th, rain date the 27th. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. 6.3 is for the August 26th backpack dispersal and back to school barbecue events.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion or questions
Why did it move? Just inconvenience
from
to you to the park?
at the request of the group?
Oh, okay.
It's a little bit bigger. They've got more folks
Yeah.
coming.
That
And
won't
they
even,
wanted more space.
that won't even have to seated.
no, not yet.
You which?
If we were doing the seating by end of August, would be.
We would already be done.
Yeah, we're not.
We probably won't be doing that until September.
Wishful thinking.
Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Next is for the Kelly Perret, marriage ceremony on September 8th at 3:30. It's in the gazebo. Obviously, we need insurance and all that stuff.
Right.
I need a motion in a second.
Motion.
I do have a comment. I thought literally this was the example of what we did not do in the park. Those weddings.
Well, it's very limited. There's 30 people, I believe, is what they asked for. So it was taught, we were working off of those 3 different criterias: space,
Okay.
time, and number of people. We've turned down weddings that were like 200 people. Or 100 people that wanted to take over the whole park for a
Okay.
certain amount of time.
And so we're just following the same.
We're
We haven't
following
seen a
the same.
wedding. I mean,
No, this is the
3
first
years we
wedding.
haven't looked at a wedding.
Are you
Um,
married then?
No, Sherry is. Sherry Eisenberg.
I would say that we do need, I think at some point to really sit down and try to formalize that 3-part test into something that's actually. Like it's actually, we gotta give them clear guidelines as to what kind of, what are allowed, and we actually should really think about. People paying for this and paying more if they come to us with 2 weeks before the event, because they make the staff scramble around to get these events approved. You know, if they give us more than a month, but we should charge for it, because there is cost associated with processing this and our time and everybody else's time. And it would make it, at least it would be a little revenue and also a little bit of
This
make
revenue, frequent responsibility.
we're getting a lot more
Yeah.
events. Yeah, we're getting a lot more events. And that's what-
Didn't we?
Yeah, we did. We actually looked at that. I don't know if we can find the numbers, but Melody Partridge did. Look at all costs in parks, all costs. The riverfront, what it costs to rent this, the gazebo, she did all that work.
Charging as well.
Yeah, you could, I mean, but the research was done. I don't know if we can
I
find
don't know
it,
if it'd still be in date, still be.
but at least it would give you guidance if
Yeah.
she
Right.
talked to.
Okay, I mean, I have no problem with this particular ceremony. Wish them
That's a
well.
good idea, but good points that you brought up, Jack.
We should be able to
Look
get
at
that.
that person.
Okay. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. The second is for another wedding ceremony on October 14th.
To your point.
This is a 2.5 hour event, yes, 10 to 12:30.
The way they
20 minutes.
phrased it was,
Yeah.
they just.
Oh, they were
need to
trying to
No,
do it
yes.
between.
Just the.
in the morning.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's 20 minutes, but it's in that time frame.
Yeah.
It's a
Oh,
20-minute ceremony. I read it.
Yeah.
Okay, I know, but I
Oh.
skimmed it over too
Oh,
fast.
okay.
I need a motion in a second.
Motion.
Second.
I just have one
Questions?
question.
Yes.
Will any work be being done down at the park during these months? Or, I mean, are they gonna have like bulldozers
Are we
down
bumping
there?
it up October 14th, bumping up against it.
I don't know if there's gonna be construction on October 14th, but I'm advising everybody that there
Oh,
may
okay.
be. In
Okay,
this
great.
case, it's for the viewing period, which will be accessible.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Good question, Marie. Thank you. Okay, we have a motion, second, motion's on the floor, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Tourism grants, I need a motion in a second.
Motion.
Motion from Marie, second from Donna. Any further questions on them? And again, thank you to the Business Council and to Visit Nyack, Tomas. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. I think we have that twice.
This one is.
Resolution
a-
6.7
is.
it's to appoint, I'm sorry. And I didn't mention this, we're appointing a new member to the Business Council, Travis Coster. I need a motion in a second.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
2 seconds, you got 2 seconds.
Oh, okay, whatever.
Okay, that's good, we got 2.
It's
The
okay.
backup is ready.
I'll put my.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you to Travis.
That's the last, we're full.
Now, let's get this motion on the table and then I didn't know that we were going to be voting on this tonight. But let's get this motion on the table. to discuss.
That's true.
This is for the tree.
Let's wait for the next minute.
Is to close it or to?
No, this is actually to pass it if we
No,
pass
it's
the.
a set of public hearing.
Yeah.
Let's just.
Did I not read it?
Yeah. So it's-
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's getting too late.
It is,
And
good.
I
It
need to-
is.
Yeah. So this is set a public hearing on September 14th at 8 o'clock.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. And then this is to adopt the filming law. I need a motion and second.
Second,
So motion from Joe, second from Marie. I believe we're gonna have a couple of amendments to this, so let's get that done. Joe, did you have?
Yeah, my suggestion, if you look at the law, it's the numbered page 5 of the packet. I don't think it's the page.
Okay.
Depends what you're looking at, but it does define directly impacted merchant. That's what we're referring to before.
Yeah.
I would simply add, where it says illustrative examples of said closures, restrictions, or constraints are, I would add comma, at a minimum, and then the colon, to make it clear that this is a baseline. This is the minimum of what these people have to be compensated. Anything else above that is a matter of, to some extent, balancing, how much impact is it actually having on them?
or
And,
negotiation.
and George
Okay,
left, okay,
No, well, I want to make sure that we get the
okay,
Robert's rules process correct. So as an amendment to the motion, Joe is amending it. We need a second to that amendment and we need to vote on the amendment first, right?
Discussion.
So we'll have a discussion, but let's get a motion in a second and we'll have a discussion. So the amendment is to add
at a
at a
minimum,
minimum for colon. Okay, I need a motion from Joe. I need a second
Second.
discussion.
It would have just been nice to see other definitions, I know you had said that some places don't have it, but for the places that do, it would have just been nice to see what they're, how they define. Directly impacted merchant. Oh, sorry, I said it would be nice to have seen what other places define as directly impacted merchants.
Okay, other comments, and then we'll go back. All right, so let's vote on the amendment. And then we may want to table this if people aren't ready to vote, but let's vote on the amendment first. All in favor of the amendment?
aye,
Aye.
You could say that.
You're gonna say no just for the amendment?
Oh, sorry, no, I did the amendment, sorry.
Yes, for the amendment. So now we have an amended resolution that just reads in the directly impacted merchant section. Illustrative examples of which are at a minimum, and then a colon. Go ahead,
illustrative examples of said closures, restrictions, or constraints are at a minimum,
and then colon.
comma, at a minimum, colon.
Okay, so that's the resolution that we have now for us. So let's go back to discussing the resolution.
I don't have an objection to putting this off for another week. I mean,
Yes.
I hate to, we don't need to continue the public hearing, right? We just put off the resolution.
We closed the public hearing.
We closed it.
Because I think there's a fair point to say, let's look to see what some of the other river towns do. I looked at Tarrytown, I couldn't even find them doing compensation for anybody,
Yeah.
at least by legislation.
And that's fine too, it's just, it would be nice to know what else is out there, but I'm also, to George's point, I mean. If what we've had previously, what was there, I guess, what was in the law previously versus this, if it doesn't really change anything, he's still, it does change it, oh, okay.
But so let's
Yeah.
I'm okay if we table, but let's just remember something.
Mhm.
We were asked by someone to bring the law and the agreement together.
Mhm.
We weren't asked to research whether we thought the law was correct or not.
Right, that's-
So we weren't asked to do that work. If we're now being asked to do the work, that's a completely different agenda. So for someone to say we didn't do research, we did a lot of research to make sure that we were following what we were being asked to do. So we're not doing a disservice to anyone. I kind of balk at that statement, but we are actually doing a service to the community by bringing the agreement and the code together. If the board wants to do something different, cool, we can do something different, but that was not the purpose of this exercise. If we all remember where we came from and what we were trying to do.
I do agree with that, because you're right, that's exactly what we were asked to do.
And it's what we asked staff to do as
Right,
well.
and I do want to respect that, and I just want to be able to balance the discretion that we have as the village to deal with this on a case-by-case basis with just a little bit more clarity on who we're calling a directly impacted merchant. I think the language could be clearer.
Let me just add to that point, there's always a balance between. You can make the rule very clear and it will give very little discretion to the staff about who they would recommend to get compensated. At which point you're going to make it very narrow. At which point what you're going to say is basically this, that these are the examples. You have to be on the same block. It's got a block right your block, because we're not going to make it expansive and have people 3 blocks away. I mean, George, the initial thing that brought a lot of this up was George, who under no circumstances would qualify. There's not one definition we would even consider that would give compensation to somebody who's a block and a half, 2 blocks away from where the street was impacted. And so it was more just, you can't make legislation based on the fact that one guy didn't like driving around and so he went back home. But I think that giving some discretion to the staff is a good idea.
Yeah.
I think it does give right. I think the way it's written right now, it does say, give people a chance to say, hey, listen, here's what's happened. This is really bad for me. I'm across the street. I'm not on the same side of the street, but I'm across the street, but it's taking half the spaces away on a busy day, on a Friday or whatever. That they can go and make the claim. And then it's really up to, the discretion is exercised to say to the film company, you got to pay these people. Isn't that discretion that we exercise?
I think the way it's set up is that the village administrator's office handles the permitting process, I think, without going into.
It's not the building department.
The village administrator's office, the
Right.
village administrator,
Yeah.
right, so, yes, they exercise some discretion in the village administrator's office as to.
So, okay.
But it does, okay.
Okay, so let me think about how give us some ideas of how to move forward here, because I think if we're looking to review the entire filming law and sort of go and do research about with David Bell, which I think if we're going to do it, that's a great idea. If we're look at other places that are doing this and sort of start from scratch and develop a whole new law, that's one thing. If we want to add a few other examples, we can go get them from other places and put them in the law. That's different. So what are we?
I'm
Second or the
looking for a
first?
full revamp. I'm just concerned with this
You
section.
just want to add a
2.
couple more.
Yeah, I mean,
I think
a
she wants-
couple more examples, sure, but this kind of brings up another question is when someone comes to Anne Marie and she's like, yeah, you are being impacted. She then directs the production company to pay them? Is that in our
Actually,
role?
that discretion, I think, is a bit of a problem.
Yeah,
What happens in practice is that there's a relationship and there's kind of being nice and
Yeah.
trying to resolve issues. But our ability to direct or mandate a fee to be paid. I don't really understand where we have the legal ability to do that.
yeah.
I maybe just I don't understand about it, no.
I mean, it's like I had said to George that our law as it stands doesn't seem to provide him a remedy. All it does is just make a definition for him, which is fine, but he's not looking for that. He wants us to solve a problem that we can't solve. And maybe maybe to get rid of that, we do need a narrow definition so that it's like, oh, sorry, you don't fit in this purview, we can't help you, or we can help you. That's my concern, is that if it's too wishy-washy, then it becomes our problem where he's coming to meetings or other people are coming to meetings. And we may not be able to solve that issue if we can't direct the production company to pay.
Well, I mean, the law says The applicant shall reimburse directly impacted merchants as follows, and later on, the sum of $350 for each day in filming to directly impacted merchants. Now. That's, I mean, operation of law is supposed to pay, so they're not paying, they're violating the law, so there is authority for us to enforce our code.
We need.
Right, but if our code is vague. Yeah.
All right, well, if you
our
want, I
code is a
mean,
little
here's the
bit
thing, if you
vague,
want a
then
definition, then we have to go the other way. Which is we have to literally delineate the circumstances under which somebody has to get paid, which is fine. We can list out 10, the person who gets paid has to be on the same block, has to have streets that are closed off, has to do this, and if they satisfy any of these 10 conditions, they get paid. And then leave it, you can just say, hey, here's what the law says, you gotta pay them.
And
We can do that.
I think that's what we should do,
And that's
because that would help, yeah, that's
Him
clear.
or anybody
I mean,
else
he's-
coming, like you said.
But
I won't be happy because he won't qualify.
Right,
but-
and that's neither here nor there, I mean, if he doesn't qualify, he doesn't qualify, but it doesn't become our responsibility
But
to
doesn't
So I think-
directly impact the.
finagle it.
Or say that?
No, not to the extent that people want it. So what I'm hearing is that we want to rewrite the directed impact to be very specific. So I think that will probably be a new law. So, right, there will be another public hearing needed for that. We're significantly changing the law.
We closed the public hearing.
So there, and this significant change, so
Yeah.
we need to table this resolution. And then move to start getting someone to do that research. And it's gonna take.
Sorry, Dennis.
I look at Tarrytown now,
They're in a vein.
there's like, it's like one page, there's nothing in here about it.
Yeah, that's the thing, I think Rockland County has, will be compensated as needed.
Okay.
I think, let's do the research, so let's table this now,
Okay.
someone make a motion to table it,
So moved.
Second.
any discussion on favor? Opposed, so the motion's tabled, now let's direct staff, let's get 4 or 5 different municipalities, laws. And let's look at them, we can have a small 2 people from the board look at this, please, because this is something that it seems the board has a lot of interest in, so we don't want the staff to do all the work. And then come back to us and we go, no, that's not it, so,
I'd also be happy to.
Yeah.
right, so let's have one or
Some
2
examples.
Yeah.
Pascal and Joe get to do the research and bring it back to the board. Okay, all right, so where are we? I think we're done with resolutions, yes? All right, so. No, we just tabled that,
I didn't get to that part to see if it was the last resolution.
right?
Yeah.
All right, so now we are for public comment on any item. Yes, sorry, I didn't know we were gonna be going there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, walk up.
Yep, please.
Hello, this is the first time I've been to one of the village meetings. Please come back. My name is Kate Valentine. I am a Nyack resident. And if you can't help me, maybe you can direct me to who you can. I'm trying to produce a free community event. And I'm looking for the funds to get it done. Basically what I'm looking to do is have a land acknowledgement ceremony for the local indigenous tribes. Ideally, I have a tentative date in September, which would precede the Indigenous Peoples' Day and Thanksgiving. King Cross has generously offered the Nyack Center as a possible venue for this. The reason why I'm interested in this is because I'm a parent of 2 small children who are 9 and 11. And I've been consistently disappointed with the whitewashing of the American history, particularly around Thanksgiving, when my kids actually still come home with cartoon characters of pilgrims shaking hands with indigenous people in headdresses. It's like, it's not cool. And I've had a hard time finding age appropriate material for them in the library system to give them an alternative version of history. So with that, this is just something I've been doing independently as an individual. I reached out to the Ramapo Muncie Lenape tribe. And I've been speaking to them, they're named Oleana. And she was the one who suggested, I wasn't sure what form the event should take. She suggested a land acknowledgement ceremony. And she was excited about it because they have not done a land acknowledgement ceremony that is with families in mind, right? So the idea is that the audience could be families, children, not that it's, I believe that they would not be avoiding topics, but that it would be age appropriate. So I have something here that I can share with you about what the content, the proposed content from her would be. It's basically several different speakers, some slides and short videos with some history, some contextualizing. The cost for their services is $2,000. Those are funds which would be paid directly to individuals for their services rendered, for public speaking, for their transportation, et cetera. It's not tax deductible because it's paid directly to individuals. And then I think there would probably be some smaller additional costs, like for advertising the event and for refreshments, but maybe I could get those as services using client from the others. This is, I didn't know about this at Nyack. I produce events, I would have applied to that if I had known, but this is not even appropriate for that because these are direct funds that are needed for the individuals in question. I'm working, if this flies for September 23rd, which is a Saturday afternoon, that's 6 weeks away. It's a pretty tight timeline. So I could possibly push this until after January to get this to happen, to buy more time to find the funding. However, I think it's nice to do it in the fall when there's all of these holidays that speak to or don't speak to our Indigenous history in this area.
What are you asking of the village? What would you?
I'm asking for money.
Yeah. That's that point.
And if this is the wrong door to knock on, maybe you can tell me who I should speak to. Well, I just know with the Lenape, when I worked at the library, we had programs with them there, and I know Brooklyn Demi's very much involved with that. And Lisa we did the whole like photography, and her husband did the video taping of that, and they had an outside installation going in Upper Nyack at a property that they, acquired because they bought that village. But those are the people I know that have been directly involved with the Lenape. That maybe you might want to reach out to, that they might have ideas in terms of money for fundraising or something.
I'm not sure if this is a good suggestion to me, but I know someone else had reached out to us about doing an event.
Parade or something.
Yeah, a parade or something around Lenape. Fairly similar to what you wanted, so it might be worth you guys connecting about that. But I also know the same person isn't on the Human Rights Commission for Rockland County. I don't know what the commission's purpose is at this point, but maybe they could also be having for some funding. I don't know.
Great. Someone else who did connect me with someone who's connected with the Department of Education or the Board of Ed, thinking that might be a good avenue to.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name again.
Kate Valentine.
Kate Valentine. My suggestion, we don't have any money. It's just we don't have budget for it, and we don't generally throw events like we're just not budgeted. But I will tell you this: just set up a GoFundMe. Tell them you need $5,000, not $2,000. You'll have it within 10 days. Put it out there on Facebook. A GoFundMe for an event like this. It's a great event. It's a great idea. People in Nyack would love to support it. And rather than try to go do fundraising by going to big dollar, this organization, that organization, you'll get $20 from, 300 people. And you'll have, I'll, shoot me an email, because I've done these, and I'll give you, Joe Rand at Nyack.
Would you like to take one of these just for?
Sure.
Yeah.
But I'll be happy to help you set up.
She'll make sure we all get a copy of it.
Can you write your email on it?
Oh, yeah, I'll give you my card.
It's a great idea. It's a wonderful idea.
It's a small thing, but I apologize, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I literally didn't know who to talk to, so.
That's fine.
That's fine.
Thank you for bringing this.
Yes.
Any other public comment? Just make sure they get your email.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for the idea. Other public comment? Oh, sure.
Just very quickly, I know that I had spoken to you about doing an event with the band, not being.
That's exactly what Pascal.
Down at the river.
Yeah.
Oh, you had. Oh, okay, wow.
Yeah, there was actually 2 or 3 people.
Yeah, there's been a bunch of people.
Yeah,
I know Chad.
and I also know, and Pat, and I also know that, for instance, the Ramapo, Muncie, the Ramapo Muncie would also, I'm sure be happy to be marketing their event to the Split Rock website, and you could just get so much traction,
Through the Split Rock website?
well, through the Ramapo, Ramapo Muncie, they have a Split Rock website there.
The mechanics of organizing this event, we can't do that in a meeting. Just we're at 9:35.
You've been talking about.
Yeah, but we don't have, no one, everybody talks to us about it, but no one has given a proposal for what they need from the village to operate it. So we can't really respond. We can't set up your event for you. But we can certainly tell you it's a great idea.
You want to use Memorial Park, come back to us with that, because that we deal with.
That's what we do. Or you need street closure, we can do that.
We can do that.
We can do that.
That's our authority.
So, yeah. Any other public comment on any item? Okay, move to reports. Our Orangetown Police meeting is next Wednesday. So we have not met with them in July. We will bring up with them, we've asked them to comment on 2 specific issues. One is on the walkarounds. And the second is on a specific incident that happened in the village that we're trying to get more information on. I can't be more specific about that because of the people involved, but we can talk about that in exec session if we need to. Dennis.
Just wonderful to see Marie back sitting next to me, and she was actually very helpful to me during the meeting. She passed me the cheat sheet that was on a blank, and she filled it in. Thank you. It's great to have you back. Just very quickly, I just searched the village of Southampton, the town of Southampton, town of Greenberg, and the village of Tarrytown, as you know. And I have to tell you that our proposed local law is far more comprehensive and detailed than all of them. And none of them talk about compensating businesses or merchants impacted. I searched dollar signs. And so, we'll keep searching, but right now.
Let's have Joe and Pascal do that work and bring it back.
With you.
Thank you. That's it.
Yeah, I think.
That's a fresh report, right out of the oven.
Right out of the oven.
What about a fun fact?
Andy. Please.
A couple of on capital projects. We submitted our CFA applications for the River Club bulkhead site. And for the waterfront, which we talked about today. We had a lot of good support letters and so on from everybody. Want to note on July 26th, there was basically a flash flood in the village. We got 2.8 inches of rain in an hour from Main Street to the river. Briefly, the water went away. We didn't see any damage from that storm, unfortunately, or any damage to private property or public infrastructure, which is great. Capital projects, the TAP project will be starting again soon. The First Avenue corner of North Broadway which is the big piece that remains on that. I just wanted to do two things, just so you know. One is with the engineering of that corner, to get a slope is, it can't be steep enough to discharge water as quickly as it can rain. And there will be, it's not gonna be just like the water's gonna go away. It has to run around the corner and it's quite flat on First Avenue. So I want to set expectations for this group, if anybody's listening, that without a hole in the ground, that water needs to get around the corner. And it will back up while it dissipates. But with the slope correct, the water will run around the corner and disappear down Broadway with tide. Just so we know, we get strong rain events, and that corner is going to be a slow point for the drainage system, no matter what. Another thing I want to note, just aesthetically, this design is gonna be a little different from what you used to. You used to see asphalt go all the way to the curb. Because this slope gradient around that corner has to be so precise, it's gonna be 0.46% slope, less than 1%. The contractors have proposed, instead of doing asphalt all the way to the curb, it'll be a concrete surface that they can engineer more precisely than asphalt. So there won't be a dip or any change in the road there, just that the material will switch from asphalt to concrete. I'm actually happy with that. It's gonna look a little funny because we don't have other corners that are done that way. But the slope is so gradual that the next paving job can easily mess it up if the thickness of the asphalt is a little off. If we have a concrete gutter line there, that won't need to ever be paved because the paving will go up and stop. So the next paving job, we won't be out there with a slide rule, making sure that tilt on, which isn't used to that level of precision, won't have to mess with the gutter line, which would basically be built in concrete. And so I just wanted you to be aware that there's some slight differences in what you might expect to see as far as the design of them. But overall, I'm happy to have a plan which shows a downward slope around the corner, contrast to others.
I'll be happy when the words come out of your mouth. The TAP project is done.
It's done. Yeah, me too.
The rest of the village.
The Bird Street sidewalks are looking beautiful. Bird on the Cedar. Take a look at them. They're beautiful new sidewalks over there. There's going to be some landscaping improvements along with that, and some finishing touches in front of the church there on Bird Street. The South Broadway sidewalk the plans are done. It's going to bid. The bids are due back, I think, September 12th. So hopefully the September 14th meeting will have the engineer's recommendation for which proposal to accept. The Depew Avenue paving from the Park Gate up to Franklin is scheduled for on or about the first week of September. What else I want to mention? I wanted to mention that our next meeting, we're gonna have to bring the climate action plan back to you. Before that meeting, you will receive drafts of all of the chapters from the group, which we were part of this. And we're hoping that you'll read them and provide feedback prior to September 14th, when we can have a presentation of those drafts, and we'll have some sense of what your read on them is before that meeting. So you'll get those in your emails, and that whole project is due in late September.
Is it possible, and just, I know you're going on, can I get this printed out in our mailbox?
Sure, I can
So
print it
that
out
you
for
could
you.
actually mark it up?
Absolutely, yeah,
Would
absolutely.
you like to say? Yes.
Yep. Anybody wants to print out, when you get the email, just reply back to Andy.
Okay.
I wanted to mention also that the Mental Health Association's mobile kind of mental health unit will be coming to the village and parking over on near the Soup Angel's Kitchen. It's only around the corner in front of the Verizon building on Cedar.
On
They have,
certain days or?
yeah, it's gonna be Mondays from 2 to 5. The hours are gonna change between September and October. I believe in September, they're coming sometime between noon and 5. That period, and then later in October, they're shifting a little bit later in the afternoon. But in any case, that's the game plan that we arrived at with them. And I communicated that with the Soup Angels coordinator as well. I just wanted to know, because we've been, I know the mayor anyway noticed, others do as well, the sidewalk cafes. Sometimes there's not enough space between the tables and then. And Manny, our building department has been walking the street and letting people know and giving warnings essentially to adjust their location of their umbrellas and their tables and so on, to make sure that they provide for the ADA acceptable width of 4 feet. And it's high enough to walk under without. So just so you know that monitoring and enforcement is taking place. And that's all I got for now. Any questions or concerns, please let me know.
I just want to thank you. I know that I've been texting you about holes that I've come across to prevent any sort of accidents from you, and thank you for, you know, I text you next thing you know, they're out there fixing it, so I really appreciate. your
Thank
attention
you
to
for
that.
letting us know when there's something that's.
You have anything, Jen? Okay, old business, we've already set the public hearing for the tree ordinance. ETPA adoption law, just a quick update. We've been advised by our attorney that we've overlooked some applicable buildings or to be included in the survey. So we are going to add those buildings into the survey before we announce the results of the survey. I would like to have an executive session to talk about potential lawsuit. So I'll make a motion for executive session.
A second.
So, all in favor? Opposed, motion carried. So just to that would be properties, those applicable properties are still within the framework of we look at the 25 and over and before 1974. Right, so just so you're aware that we're not adding anything into it. We talked about the work session for Memorial Park, just a quick report on that. We looked at the 4 different projects. We will have more workshop issues and discussions about that. Looking to get that done, the Great Lawn done and everything done by the end of the fall, but we'll see how that goes. And then the second thing was our parking authority meeting where we passed a 2-month what do I call it? Code or policy for 10 parking spaces in front on the east side of the riverfront parking lot, river space parking lot will be 1 hour only for 1 time a day. And we suspended the one that we've been operating for 3 months for the whole parking lot to be for 1 hour. So that was the basic discussion in our parking authority. And we did have a discussion with the hospital about their parking garage. We'll have a follow-up meeting about them. We don't have any communications. So we will move to I'm sorry, Jackie. Jackie Dressler is giving us a I believe we have 2 options here. This is on the Holtec dumping. I'm sure you've all read the information. I've passed information around to you a couple times. I believe that we've all looked at it. Well, just a couple of options, just so you know, as soon as we got the information from Jackie, and there was a couple other people that sent it to me. This is when before the law was passed. We were in touch with our
No, the law was.
The law was
It was
passed, it
not.
wasn't signed by the, so I,
Sign.
Continue.
so I did contact our state reps and said that we were in favor of the law. We talked about that a while back. And I also wrote emails to both our state senator and our assembly person. And I have sent an email to our governor's representative about our asking her to sign the law. So that's what we've done to date. So we have a couple options. One is to pass a memorializing resolution. Our village board has not been big on memorializing resolutions. We've been big on action. Writing letters, making phone calls, doing stuff. But we can, if the board wants to, there's a resolution that I think Jackie has already given to us. Or we could send a letter to Hochul signed by me on behalf of the entire board of the village. Jackie, whatever you want to say about that, I just wanted to put a.
I have provided a copy of the Rockland County resolution that.
We've all seen that, but thank you.
Also, in this little packet are a couple of sample letters from some other elected officials. I know I just got a letter today from Ed Day that he sent back in June, very strong letter. So actually what's happening now is many of the towns and villages that pass resolutions are writing the letters to Governor Hochul now in support of having her sign the bill. It's really important. I'm just gonna play you a tiny little sound bite that's important here. A little sound bite. It was from the last decommissioning oversight board meeting, which happened July 31st. So we haven't gotten the testing that we need. They haven't started it and they're planning on dumping before the testing is done. And so it's really urgent. Either, you know, I'd love it if you pass a resolution. You don't need to, but especially to write to Governor Hochul. We also, you know, it's interesting that you had the fellow with tourism tonight because I actually was on a call with the governor's office for their staff about this recently. And one thing that they asked 3 times. We want the information on economics and tourism for towns in the Hudson Valley. So I think maybe she's looking for ways.
Add something about that in the letter.
So you know, and it does turn out from the information I got, there was an article in the Rockland Business Journal with Tina Trasner. It said that basically without the Rockland County tourism that brings in all the money, each resident in Rockland County would be paying about an additional $400 a year in taxes. That's how much we rely on tourism. So anyway, I'm just hoping that you'll do something, and we also have a moratorium letter that we're finalizing, asking for a 2-year moratorium. So that this would be through the state of New York, through the DEC, and the EPA, to actually really have alternatives really looked at. And because this is an issue not just for Indian Point, but for other nuclear reactors in New York State that will be closing, and then there's at least 40 around the country. So we think that there needs to be a waste management plan with public participation. And so that's another thing. I sent it to you, but they're finalizing it this week, the letter.
Okay, I've not been getting emails from you, Jackie, so I don't know.
So
what that
maybe
is.
I'm not sure how to send.
Send it to me, I'll forward it.
So I'll send the memorializing,
Yeah, send the moratorium letter.
moratorium. And then you have samples of other letters. I could also send you Ed Days where he was practically spitting.
Andy actually showed me a letter, and we've already drafted one, we're ready, we could be ready to send it, I just wanted to get a sense of the board, what we wanted to do, but thank you for
Okay, and the
bringing
only
this to our
thing,
attention.
very last page of the packet I gave you. Dana Levenberg, the Assemblywoman, and Senator Pete Hartell, myself, and also Ellen Weininger, who's with Grassroots Environmental Education of Youth. We would all like to be CC'd. They'd like to know that they're getting these letters.
Yeah, I think that's actually in the instructions for the letters, so,
Okay.
yeah,
Well,
so
that's-
thank you, yes.
Perfect. Thank you very much for listening to me. It's a very big uphill road here because you're small people and this is a massive corporation. So thank you.
Thank you, thanks,
Jackie.
thank you for your answers. So obviously, we're gonna do something, we've already done some things, but do we want to memorialize the resolution? We could send a letter first, let's get the letter. If
Yeah,
everyone
yes,
is
the
pretty much
letter
agreed to
first,
get
yeah.
the letter,
This might be the one.
yeah, I've always felt that way.
Yeah.
Because I've seen some groups say they memorialize a resolution and put it up on their website and they don't do the follow-up, so I've always tried to make it. Let's be activists about it. We did it with the dance scam issue when that came up. I made phone calls, I testified at one of the meetings, but we didn't do a resolution. We wrote letters, we did the activism stuff.
Yeah.
So with your permission, we'll finalize the draft of the letter and get it out tomorrow or Monday or whatever. And then send us the moratorium letter and we'll consider that as well.
Okay, and I'd just like to say that the resolution actually that Rockland County did became kind of the landmark that all of the other counties and towns started using. It was so good. So the thing is, our resolution is actually also tied to fines. And it becomes like a law with the ability to actually do fines after it goes through like the State Department or something.
Which resolution?
Our resolution from the Rockland County Legislature actually is tied to the Hartman bill in such a way that the fines that are in the Hartman and Levenberg bill would actually translate down to a town, say, or a county that would actually be able to enforce, having some sort of enforcement because it is actually tied to the bill. So I just wanted you to know that other little aspect of it. Not that we're going to be going after whole heck that way, because we can, but
I'm not sure I quite understand what you're saying. What you're saying is that the resolution allows the village to then fine.
well, if you look at the resolution, it actually, well, you don't have it in front of you, but it actually does talk about that. Where is it? The fines are too low, it should be the cost of doing business, and it's tied to the actual bill that Senator Hartman and they raised the
If
fine.
we support that bill in the letter, which is what the letter says.
I guess
Then
that's
we've
probably
done what you
the
need.
same
Okay,
thing, and yeah,
okay,
okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
thanks, Jack.
Send me some of that when you get a chance.
Sure.
I just want to see that.
Yeah, I'll send it around.
Okay, so we're now at public comment on any item, our last shot around for public comment. Seeing none, comments from the board of trustees. Should we give you first shot at us, since you haven't been around for
I'll even take my mask off. Uh-oh.
Just gotta sell some stories.
Yeah, she's taking her mask off. It might be here for a while.
Man, I've not been around for 3 months. Okay, but just want to thank you all for, first of all, your support. But again, having not been in Nyack in 3 months, when I was brought home, I came down, I was driven down Main Street and I made what they make a left, I guess, on Get Me. It's amazing. It's like this tabletop. You guys did a fantastic job. And I got to thank you for my neighborhood. I don't know if anybody else had anything to say about their neighborhood, but I wanted to thank you all for that. And also came down Main and whatever.
Main Street.
What are bump outs or restaurant things. They have added so much
Yep.
to the village and, again. Having not been here a couple of months with fresh eyes, it is amazing. And again. Thank you. Well, I was part of that too, but well, I appreciate it, but you know what we've done. And keep up the good work, basically. Okay, I just have one question with regard to the research on the film. Can I make a comment or not at this point? Oh, okay. I've read it. I've been through it with you guys previously. I don't think if first of all, Nyack gets an awful lot of filming, okay, and it's good. I don't know how many other communities do, but I don't think we need to be the dog. We don't need to be the tail. And I think our resolution is strong, it's definitive, and within a certain iota, it doesn't leave much discretion, but there is that little bit of discretion in our filming code. And I would not like to see us copy anybody else. And as our attorney said, no one else has as strong up or whatever. And I don't know how much filming they did, but I think I'd like to protect Nyack and our merchants by keeping it the way it is. I'm done. Thank you.
No comment except to welcome Marie back. Happy to have you back.
Thank you.
Yeah, Marie, thank you. It's really nice to have you back and
And
back in business. Oh, yeah, you haven't missed a beat. And the meetings, the housing authority meetings, they're not gonna resume until September. Yeah, they'll just, they just, I mean, I'm not sure I'm gonna call them yet, but basically they're not, the other ones, there's nothing happening until September. Yeah.
Welcome back, Marie, and thank you, Andy, for coming to my mom and my dad's rescue when their sidewalk just decided to like turn into a river.
That was the water department.
Yeah, well, yes, the water department, but I sent you a text, so you get it. But she is complaining now that there's a crack in the sidewalk, so help me help you, so that I don't get in trouble anymore. Thank you, that's it.
A quick question for you, Andrew. That sidewalk question. The sidewalk outside of Franklin, is that our responsibility or the developers?
Where on Franklin?
Yours.
50 South Franklin.
Your building.
Right in front of my building.
Yeah, all the sidewalks are they're the property owner, unless it's by a village park. It's village owned in that case, but if it's adjacent to private property, then it's owned by the property. That's why one reason why it's important to keep it in good repair, because we do see lawsuits at least a couple times.
Well, right, but it was kind of like iffy before, and we've had it shaved. I mean, it was never a brand new sidewalk. But we just had it last night. That's the one. That's true.
Yes, sidewalks are expensive. That's why we try to get grants to do them.
It's about a state districts.
Yeah. Just a couple quick updates for you. I continue to work on the Nyack Cares. Andy talked about the mental health ban. I've met with United Way. We are working on getting all of the service providers into the 211 network. A bunch of them aren't. So they started on this Monday, calling and getting all of their updates for 211. So that, and we're pretty much ready to do everything else. As soon as we get the information, we can start doing the marketing and stuff. We're still waiting for the grant from the state for the the ambassadors, it still hasn't come through yet. I don't know why, but we check every week and we keep getting a not yet, so
How did you deal with the grant?
we've got it through Zabrowski.
When did you submit it?
It was approved the last day of the budget. We have not even gotten the approval to go forward with the grants.
Was it like a small percentage? Because they only just sent those to agencies like a couple weeks ago.
It was for 30,000, for $30,000, split into three.
I've been telling people if you haven't heard from your agencies by end of August, beginning of September, to follow up again.
Well, I've been.
Yeah, yeah.
pain in the neck. Well, so anyway, that's a piece that's missing. August 23rd, all of the logistics are put in place so that we will be showing the Jackson, what happened to Jackson Avenue at the old high school in the auditorium. We're giving out 500 tickets for that event. We're working tomorrow on a process for distributing tickets. They will be first to the community that was affected by this. And then if we have any tickets left over, we'll make them available through the Nyack Center and the NAACP. But we've raised the money, and thank you for everybody for participating. This is from the village trustees. It's not from the village itself, the village trustees and two other people. Our former attorney and Jen White have donated money to raise $2,000 to offer this documentary to the community. So we will be doing that on the 23rd at 7 o'clock. And I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a great success. We will have a follow-up. They'll do the same follow-up discussion that they've had.
I have 1 minute with regard to this.
Sure, go ahead.
No,
I'm trying to get us.
All I was gonna say is, family, friends down at the shore, okay? They heard from someone in Nyack about this, and they're gonna come up to do it because they were old Nyack residents. And they really
They
appreciate
can't
it.
get into that unless they have a ticket.
Well, I don't know how they're gonna work it, but the thing is, I will
Just
let
make
it
sure
know.
they don't
So
drive
all
up
I'm
here.
saying is, it's even gotten down to South Jersey, so.
There's 500 tickets, so that will be the max that we can handle. And it will be 7 to 9-ish, and then then there'll be a half hour to 45-minute discussion.
Okay, so. And the advertising of it will be on our website and various.
That's the folks that I'm working with are working on all of that process. We'll go to visit Nyack, go to our website. That's what it's the old high school. Old high school. It's like auditorium.
And how many, so that's 500 free tickets, and then after that, like people still have.
500, there's 500 seats.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah.
We will need some volunteers, but so I may ask.
And I will, yeah, I will.
To take
I
tickets
will.
and direct people to
I will, it's right
bathrooms. and
before I
things
go
like
away.
that.
Yes, I'll take that one.
We will be getting volunteers. Louise Parker is helping me do a lot of this. So we'll, if we need people, we'll ask. And Joe, if you're interested, we'll ask you and you can say yes or no, just so you can be involved.
At 10 o'clock, Joe was doing his canvassing.
Yeah, really, yeah. No, I'm not doing this again. September 6th. If just this is the last one, and then I'll shut up. September 6th, in this room, there will be a reception for the opening of the Fair Housing Office of the county in our village hall. They will be here once a month or once every other month. I forget what it is, Andy, but they will be doing a reception here at 10:30 in the morning.
When?
On September 6th.
Tuesday the 5th. Tuesday
Tuesday the 5th, I'm sorry, Tuesday the 5th.
That's what time is it?
At 10:30
AM?
AM.
Yeah, it'll be here alone.
I forget you.
Right, so I will entertain a motion to move to exec session.
Motion.
Second, all in favor?
I.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you, everyone.
Dennis, you're already up. Red.
You-